Welcome to the Let's Talk Wrestling podcast.
What a humdinger of a show!
Jumpy, beep, beep!
Booty-O's! They make sure you ain't booty!
I got the gift of gab and the gift of jab, and I'll put that lazy eye right back to work.
I'm not a bad guy. I'm not a good guy. I'm the guy.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Let's Talk Wrestling podcast. The wrestling podcast where we review Monday Night Raw and SmackDown and give all of you beautiful people the wrestling news of the week. My name, as the host of this show, is now getting its own brand of cookers, much like the George Foreman grills, that will make me a household name across the entirety of the world. It is Turbo Tony. You can expect your Turbo Tony sandwich makers to be coming very soon. But of course, I don't do this alone. I do this with a teammate, tag team partner, if you will. He is, however, still shedding the manliest of manly tears over the Battlefield 1 beta ending. It's Matt Marsander.
You had to mention it.
As they run down your beard. You know? That's right. You're the Michael Jordan meme of him crying. That's exactly what you are, you know.
I guess I'll just have to wait.
Yeah.
It's a month and a bit. I can manage.
Yep. Yeah, you can hold out. I can hold out. You know, at the end of that, because you'll be forced to, you know. But
I have no choice. To be fair. I'll log back in, but like EA's gonna be like, no.
Just do it anyway and try and just imagine, you know. Make yourself feel awesome. How are you doing this week anyway, Matt?
Yeah, not too bad. I'm like one step away from like grabbing an old rifle and just running around the street just to replicate it.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Yeah.
It's been a busy week, but it's not too bad.
Yeah. It's one of those weeks for me. There's a lot of shit going on over the course of this weekend. It's almost packed all the way in. We're going to talk a little bit about that. But there's a lot of stuff to get through this week. A lot of interesting talking points. Before we get into all of them, of course, and explain what's going to happen on this show, which will be a little bit different than usual, we'll do our plugs. Of course, if you would like to interact with us, the main way of doing so is our Facebook page, facebook.com/Let's Talk Wrestling Podcast. You can also tweet us to the Twitter handle. Now, this particular Twitter handle is not so much something that's been related with reality. It's more in lines of like a story that's been passed through generations, through happy families that have allowed it to bring on a new legend of its own. And that Twitter handle is
at Talk Wrestle Pod.
Yeah, and you will tell your children about that Twitter handle, Matt, won't you?
I will speak of it.
Yes.
It will be known.
By the campfire, you know, with a guitar, you're talking about the legend of the Twitter handle. That's how it will go. I expect all our fans will have to do exactly the same thing, by the way. You know, that's the way
they're better. Otherwise, they're not true fans.
Exactly.
You hear that?
Yeah.
Hear that?
Yeah.
Calling you out.
And of course, you can send us any private messages or audio questions to Let's Talk Wrestling Podcast at gmail.com. Plenty of ways to get in contact with us here on the show. What do we have for you guys this week? Of course, we've got the news, which including a bit of interesting information regarding Alberto Del Rio and Paige, which we're going to go into in quite a bit of depth. We've got the fan feedback as always. We have got the return, Matt, for 1 week only of the fail of the week. Oh, yes. Changing some shit up today. And we're doing a new segment this week called Personal Wrestling Stories, where myself and Matt are going to talk about something that's big moments with us to do with pro wrestling, our feelings, our thoughts, very, personal in terms of how we're feeling at that time. And it's just, I decided, why not? Let's just change up some of the segments this week and go along that way. So we've got that there for you this week. And then we've got the Raw and SmackDown reviews. So really an interesting show this week for all of you guys to get involved in. However, we've got a bit of procrastination. Matt, I've never made more notes for my procrastination than I have this week. This is a lot of shit is going down like tonight when this is getting recorded. literally everything. Like, for instance, today, right? So today is Saturday. This comes out on a Sunday, but today we're recording this on a Saturday. It was the Manchester derby, which City won. Awesome.
Okay, yeah, which you must be happy with.
I could have just put that in there, and that would have been awesome for me the whole of today. You know, that was a lot of fun to watch. As much as it was a little bit painstaking to see our new goalkeeper almost have a brain fart and forget how to be a goalkeeper a little bit, but still, we'll see how that goes. We still won, Matt. That's the bottom line, isn't it? You know,
yeah,
still get a win. Also, it's Golovkin Brook is happening like as we speak, as in they're going to start their fight. Probably like an hour into this podcast when we're recording it, they're going to be fighting by then. So it could be over by the time we finish. So that's going to be one hell of a fight. Matt, who do you think's winning between Golovkin and Brook?
I'm assuming by Brook you mean Punk.
No.
No?
This is the boxing. We'll get into that.
I don't know.
GGG against Kell Brook in the boxing. Who do you think's going to win?
Fucking know.
Really? I think, personally, I think...
don't know. I'm not a boxing fan.
Well, I'm going to tell you anyway,
I enjoy watching, but I won't. It's just like one man punch other man.
It's one of those things, though, Matt. I mean, you know, GGG. He's the number one pound for pound fighter at the moment. You know, he's a bad Russian man. That's who I'm going for anyway. If anyone asks,
okay.
As much as I want to back our man Brook there, Matt, it's you just look at the unparalleled knockout power that this guy has. But you know, I'm looking forward to watching the fight. It should be good. That being said, Matt, I think you've already hinted at the other Brook, shall we say, that you're a bit more interested in, shall we say? You know?
Yeah.
CM Punk. He will be fighting tonight. By this airs, he would already fought.
Is he going under the moniker of Punk?
Yeah, he's going under Punk. Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't remember.
And he's going against Mickey Gall, right? And that's the fight that wrestling fans will be, I imagine, mostly interested in. There's a lot of other good fights though on that card. So let's get into it, Matt. I guess we've talked a lot about his build-up into UFC. We've had a lot of reports. There's been a documentary done about CM Punk leading into this fight, whether or not he's going to get that victory. How do you think this is going down? Let's talk about this. I don't want just a straight-up prediction. I want you to tell me, how do you see the fight going down?
I don't know. I think it's going to be really difficult. Not difficult. Kind of in like the 99% that I don't believe that I think Gall's going to take the win.
You think Gall will win this one, yeah?
I think Gall's going to win. I think it's like they did this whole, like what happened at the weigh-in where like Punk refused to shake his hand and things like that. It's like, you have a dick, but I think it's like, I think it's because Punk's stepping into like a whole new territory. I think it could be a bit, I don't know, a bit difficult for him. I know they're saying about like, oh, I'm so ready for this. Like, I've been expecting to be walked out into the lights and all this lot, and like I deserve to be going out there and blah 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 blah. It's like, but we're worried for you.
Yeah, I tell you how I see this going, Matt. And
especially considering the feedback of his training, you're like, oh.
Yeah, I can't remember us getting any reports of anyone saying that he's training and he's like, oh, well, he's really done well in this training, or he's won X amount of simulated fights. It's always been negative coming out of his training camp, which is a bit, you know. But we'll take that for what it is, because for all we know, let's just say that could be by design. I'm just going ultra on the other side here, and even though I don't believe this is the case, but it could be that this is just all by design to try and make Gall get into a full sense of security, but Punk is actually okay and he can throw a punch or two.
Yeah.
The way that I see it going, Matt, is that you can have a bad UFC fighter win fights because they've got knockout power, and they can land a big hit even though they're not nearly as well trained as the other guy. Yeah. I don't think CM Punk has knockout power. Like, from all the times that I've watched him do striking, he's not a natural striker. So it's going to end up being one of those cases that, like, the only way I can see him winning is by hitting like a shot here that rattles Gaul, and Gaul just can't recover for whatever reason. It's one of those things. I'm not entirely convinced that Punk's got that in his locker yet. That's my opinion, and I don't think Punk can out wrestle Gaul from what I've seen. He's quick, Gaul, in his victory in UFC. He locked in that rear naked choke fucking very fucking quick. You know what I mean? Like he's got the benefit of youth on his side. Does this lad Gaul? I would like though, at the very least. I don't want to see Punk get decimated. I don't want him to leave there in a bloody mess, and I don't believe he will. I think it would be like a submission victory or something along those lines. He'll get out-wrestled, ironically. But it'd be one of those things that as long as he does like a decent showing and makes a good account of himself, then I think he'll walk out okay, even if he does lose. Because expectations of him aren't that high at all. People aren't expecting him to win. So even if he does lose, but has a good showing, then that's a victory for him in that sense, you know. So I just don't. I think this could be embarrassing, Matt, in the fact that he could be tapping out within 60 seconds. That is a very real possibility, you know.
I mean, to be fair, I don't see it getting past first round.
Yeah, I think I'm with you with that.
That or I like seeing all these things where it's just like, oh, it's going to be a swerve and Punk wins, like, cheats to win. It's like...
a chair gets thrown into the octagon, you know, into the chest, you know, while the referee's turned around looking at something else.
That's it.
Of course. But that's how I see it going down. It'll be interesting to see how it all pans out. I tell you what's more interesting, Matt, is if he loses this and he loses this really, really badly, to the point that like he gets knocked out.
Like a definitive loss.
Yeah, he takes a right hook in the first 10 seconds, gets knocked out cold, right? That could be the worst thing to happen to him, because then what happens afterwards? Does he go and fight again? But you know, a lot of people were saying here that Gaul is, you know, there's not many people that would get the opportunity that he did, and the only reason he did is because he's going against Punk. I mean, Gaul isn't that great himself. He's just more natural, and he's younger, and he's got a lot more weapons at his disposal. So,
but he's more experienced. He's got 3 fights under his belt, 2 of which under UFC.
Yeah, and you know, amateur fights before then and stuff like that. You know, what I'm getting at though is that if he loses badly to Gaul, like who does Punk go to next? I don't know who he would go against next. He'd technically have to go and get some amateur fights under his belt first, you know, and see how he goes from there. But he skipped all that because he's a hot commodity and he's going to be a pay-per-view draw. But if he loses this badly, I mean, he'll get paid. I'm sure Punk doesn't give a shit. But what is his UFC career after that? If he loses badly, I don't see another fight happening for a long, long time. You could be saying like another year before another fight happens. So we'll see how that goes from there anyway. Another bit to talk about here, Matt, is that our 3rd anniversary of the show is coming up.
Shit.
Yeah. I was genuinely like, what? I thought it was our 2-year anniversary, and I forgot we already had that. So, yeah, 3rd year anniversary of the podcast.
Ooh. Wow.
Our little baby's growing up. Oh. Of course,
soon we'll have to take like obligatory pictures of it in school uniform. And,
of course.
Starts first day of school.
Of course. I mean, I do that with my kids, you know, so once the podcast becomes of age, if you will, you know, you know, it's going to be, obviously with our 3rd year anniversary, we always do like, montages and stuff for our anniversaries. I think that normally falls around the 1st of December, which we do our LTW awards for this year. So there's actually a lot of really cool episodes coming up soon. And then you've got the 150th episode coming up, Matt. There's a lot of stuff to come. This is getting kind of cool now. Once we do a lot of the bulk of the work leading up to it, and suddenly start getting these awesome end of year surprises almost. It's a lot of cool episodes we have coming up. So any other procrastination, Matt? I actually have more, but I'm cutting it away because we had a lot to talk about there. But what? Any other procrastination you want to fit in there before we go?
No, I can't actually think of anything. Think about all procrastinated out. Whilst it's not been much, it's I can't think of anything that I have to add.
There's just a lot of sports going on. A lot of interesting sports as well over the course of this week. So I did rather enjoy that Manchester derby. In order for our Manchester United more fans, you must know by now that I will take great pleasure in your pain when it comes on this. I do. I'm not going to lie, Matt, but I fucking love it. I do.
It's like
Oh, Matt, the salty tears of Old Trafford fans, they please me. They please me. I will collect them in jars and put them on my windowsill. Beautiful. And this is coming from a guy, by the way, that was a fan back in the time that every single year we would get fucking dicked by United because we just weren't a good team. So it's I tell you what was good. Being a little bit more of a neutral, going back to that Manchester derby today, that match was a lot of fun, to the point, Matt, that it's very rarely nowadays that you've got the players on the pitch in the last 5 minutes damn near unable to run because they absolutely spent.
Just wrecked.
Yeah, they've given everything. So it was a great match to watch. It really was. All right, then. Let's get into the wrestling news of the week, and the main story of which I want to spend a lot of time talking about here. Because it's the more I think about it, Matt, the more I get annoyed about this. And that's Alberto Del Rio finally announced, and WWE did, that he is released. He's gone. We all knew it was coming. We heard stories, Matt, for a while that Del Rio wasn't happy with how it was being used. Wasn't happy with his position. You could see that on the roster anyway. I mean, anything bar the first the first month of him being around was a bit shit. Let's just be honest. He had a statement in Mexico. He had his own press conference. So that's pretty neat that you could do in a Hooters, Matt, which is even more
classy.
He covered his reasons, and I tell you what, it seems to come from a man who, A, knows his worth, and B, knows when to slow his association to pro wrestling down for the sake of his health and his family. And he talks a lot here about...
He also does it because he goes on that sort of... not even so much... yes, his health and his family, but also how he just doesn't want to lose passion sort of thing.
I get you. He talks about not wanting. He's going to retire properly, from wrestling in general, in 2 years. And he doesn't want to do a set amount of dates.
He only wants to do 60 dates in those 2 years or something like that, which
isn't a lot. I mean, in 2 years, 60 dates.
But I think he also wants to be I think he mentioned I must have misread it or something that he wants to be exclusive Mexico.
Yeah, he said no. I think one of the things in his thing is that his statement is that he's learned the lesson from being exclusive to one brand. So he wants to go and work for whoever's got the money for him.
Exclusive to brand, but exclusive to just being a Mexican talent.
Yeah, I get what you mean. To only go to those. Yeah, I get what you mean. Yeah, probably because he doesn't want to travel too much.
Then why is he at WAW next week?
What's WAW?
Paige's dad's promotion.
Oh, well, that's something something we'll get into a little bit, won't we? So, talking about Paige. But one of the things he did say in his statement, Matt, is that his kids were hiding his bags because they didn't want him to leave. And I can understand that. Listen, if he wants to get out for the course of his family, words cannot express how much I respect his decision, because he's making the decision now while he's healthy, he's got the money he needs, and he understands that staying in WWE is only going to be a detriment to his actual brand and his name recognition.
Yeah.
So that's what he's done. I can't fault him on that at all. Clearly, Matt, he is quite upset about how he was treated on his WWE run this time around. He's not upset with the company, but he is upset with the way things panned out, because he still says that he owes a lot to WWE and he has an amicable break from Vince. I don't know whether or not that's just because he doesn't want to burn bridges down the line or something. But
I was sort of reading into it, and it's sort of he says at one point, oh, excuse me. He says how... don't you can expect to find a phone call, you may get another phone call sort of thing. I may want to come back, and then later on in the thing, he's like, oh, I'm only going to be doing it for like 2 more years, and I only want to do 60 dates. It's like, well, then you're not going to be calling them back, are you?
Yeah. It's a little bit like it goes hand in hand with the fact that he says some things that just don't match up with the other. But at the end of the day, I can understand why he wants to leave WWE. I probably would want to if I was in his position. That's a lot more cookie cutter, Matt. That all makes sense to me. He only signed a year contract with WWE. He's gone. I don't think he ever should have gone back. I think he should have known better, but he probably made a lot of money for that WWE run, so who am I to say? That, and he met a certain young woman who he seems quite enamored with.
Yeah.
So that's who we're going to talk about next, because this is a lot. Because that whole Del Rio thing, that is it's black and white. It's cookie cutter. It's done, and it's almost like a clean break off, right? It doesn't. There's no real problem there. WWE don't have any right to be annoyed at him because and along those lines. And Del Rio did everything that his contract states. It's all above board. Then comes Paige. Paige's situation is hugely in flux. Now, obviously, you guys know by now, and I have to precursor this in the way of saying this, that we obviously have a lot of respect for Paige. Matt, follows her family's, as you say there, Matt, you even knew that Del Rio is going to be making an appearance on her family's promotion and stuff like this. So maybe we'll be a little bit biased here with what we're saying. So let's precursor this because Paige is just a British girl, and we're going to have her back, right?
Yeah.
Still, let's go through this and we'll explain. So, excuse me. I'll tell you what's wrong with me. I'm drinking Pepsi while doing this. It always gets me gassy. Jeez. Anyway, so Paige, on the other hand, we've been hearing reports that she has gone from WWE, which is interesting in the front that she's still in contract with them for at least a couple of years.
Yeah.
Here's the thing about this, right? She's got a long contract with WWE. Apparently, all we've heard so far is that she's hired legal representation to battle WWE on that front. She has no intention of returning. Do I believe that's true? Because this is all just reports. Yes, I believe that's true. I believe Paige doesn't want to go back. I think, like Del Rio, she's annoyed with how she was being used as well. And we were saying it here on the show.
It was known that they were a couple, and they decided to just put them on different brands.
Yeah, right. That's a big thing here. So the whole thing with that, right, is that we heard reports that apparently Mark Carrano, who's the talent relations guy at the moment, you've seen him on Total Divas being that weird little prick that runs around backstage. I say that. I don't know the guy, but he comes off as a smarmy little arsehole who I'd like to punch. It's me getting a little bit angry with this now, but just the way I get. Apparently he threatened to fire Paige if she didn't break up with Del Rio. Why management feels that is something that they have to do is beyond me, and it's not the first time they've tried to do it. They like, for some reason, to fuck around with wrestlers who get in relationships with each other. Maybe, Matt, it's one of those things that they don't like this small facet that they can't control, or it's something that they're like, oh, well, they're bringing this out onto Twitter and everything. So if we decide to do a romantic storyline, it makes no sense down the line, which is ridiculous considering.
Yeah, it's a bit interesting if you consider that they're more than happy to sort of like push like Rusev and Lana.
Yeah, I mean, even they got some heat, right? In regards to that, which back then, Matt, you and me said we thought it was fucking dumb that they got heat for that. Some fans can ask me, do I believe the reports that Mark Carrano threatened Paige to break up with Del Rio? And I'll say, yes, I do, because it's something that I can see them doing, Matt. I can honestly see them doing this, where I guarantee you they were drafted to separate shows because they're in a relationship with each other. Absolutely, across the board. I guarantee you, because for some reason the WWE management feel like they have to, if they can't micromanage something, they get pissy about it very fucking quickly. And then they end up pulling sort of shit like this, which obviously turns their talent against them, right? And the reason why you might say, oh, well, that seems like quite a ludicrous story to believe is because it's happened before. I'm not even talking about the Lana and Rusev and the Dolph Ziggler storyline that they tried to pull and everything like this. I'm talking about 20 years ago's relationships they had back then, you know? It's for some reason they like to test these relationships with people. I don't understand why. It's just a strange thing that they seem to like to do. And the whole thing here, Matt, where they're like, well, she's in a contract and she has to stay for the contract. I think the fact that CM Punk got out of his contract and won his court case in regards to that shows that she can do exactly the same thing.
Yeah. I think that's the fact that sort of like AJ left as well in similar sort of not in a similar fashion. She just decided that she just go, no, and just walked off. Like, I think, was it that AJ Lee was at a position where it was... well,
they said she retired, so...
Yeah.
Whether that was amicable or anything like that, I don't think she has any intention of coming back to wrestling anyway, so maybe it's...
Have you seen the picture that's been going around recently, though?
No, go on.
It's like an old picture of AJ Lee and Paige when they're stood next to each other, like AJ with the Divas, like Paige with the NXT Women's. But it's like when you love to wrestle, but dick is life.
God.
Rollins liked that.
Oh, no. No. I tell you what, like the reason I can't blame Paige with this is because we were banging our head against the wall saying, you know what this woman is capable of doing. And yet you're not putting her in as soon as she got involved in the Total Divas riffraff, her career was dead.
Yeah.
Instantly from there on out. And that's such a shame considering you've got such a talented woman at such a young age. We were touting her as the mold breaker. And clearly she had the talent to be able to do so. And she got over when she first came in. They just decided not to use her or to make her one of the rest of them. And it was mind-boggling why they chose to go along those lines. The one thing that is obviously on Paige's side, that she's still young after all the stuff she's done in WWE. She's still young. She can go wherever she decides that she wants to go. And there'll be plenty of organizations out there wanting to pick her up, including her own parents' organization, right? So that kind of works on that front. So it's one of those things here where I can imagine that Del Rio leaving, he said to her, look, if you want to go, you can go. No, they can't stop you from going. You know, the whole point is here that you're an independent contractor. If they take you to court, then they're going to be more afraid of you bringing up the issues around you being an independent contractor than trying to keep you for 2 years. Yeah. Right? That's probably how I perceive things went down there. And she's like, well, I don't want to hang around there anymore. For reasons beyond Del Rio is my other half. Because the things with her mucking around was going on a lot longer than Del Rio and her getting into a relationship. So to me, that's got, it must be it might be part of it, but it's not the core reason why Paige might want to leave. And if she wants to leave, then she's clearly in a position where she can. And it is an interesting situation because I'm sure that WWE, they will take it to court. Just for the precedence, because they don't want wrestlers realizing that they can use the independent contractor subject on WWE if they will go to court. And then suddenly you've got all their talent realizing that they're not nearly as locked down as WWE has made them out to think that they are. Because WWE are afraid of a conversation genuinely being started up about the independent contractor status in pro wrestling. Because it's dumb. It is dumb. I've heard former wrestlers say it's a fucking dumb thing. That WWE, they pick and choose that whole situation about whether or not you're an employee or an independent contractor to their benefit. And so far, nobody has been able to clump together and say, WWE, that's a bit fucking stupid. And we're not going to work unless you amend it so it's fairer on us as employees. Because there's a lot of things that WWE get away with that they wouldn't do if they were forced to actually employ these people. Technically, they're not actually employed by WWE. No. They're hired by WWE, but they're not employed by WWE. There's a big difference there.
Well, they're contracted to WWE.
Exactly. So it's along those lines that I'm sure that she won't have too much of a problem getting out of this situation. And I hope the best for the pair of them. That's all I say. The only thing I say is that obviously Del Rio ain't going to have a problem. Paige is probably going to have to hold back anything she does until if any court case does get filed. But as far as we know, Matt, she's got no intentions of returning, and that's where the situation has been left. As you say there, Matt, apparently Del Rio is going to be not only at the show, but he's going to be on a podcast or something like you said to me earlier on. You said that Del Rio is going to be appearing on Paige's parents' podcast or something, or show, or maybe it's the show. Sorry,
him and his brother.
Yeah. Okay. So I didn't know, exactly the semantics of that, but clearly, I mean, they seem to be on good page with each other's family to be pulling off this sort of stuff. And who knows, maybe we might find more details from there on out, or maybe not, because maybe it's one of those things that Del Rio is intelligent enough that the more he speaks on any sort of show going into the finer details in regards to Paige might screw up things for her in the future. So I wouldn't expect things to be coming out, more information to be coming out until things are more cleared up on their end. So we'll see how it goes. And I hope for the best for them, I really do. But it is an awkward situation and an interesting one at the very least. Considering they're both in the middle of they're both technically still under suspension by WWE for wellness policy. So we'll soon see how that goes. Matt, moving on from that, as we did talk about that in length, I'd love to hear what other people have to say about that, because it is a very interesting topic to speak about. But ultimately, I always side, unless it's grossly wrong, I always end up siding with the talent on this. Because at the end of the day, they are taken advantage of to a certain degree when it comes to WWE. And I always harken back, Matt, to the book that Daniel Bryan released when he said he had a phone call with Vince McMahon and told him, you do realize I can make more on the indie scene than I do in WWE. And I remember not only was Vince McMahon shocked at that, I was shocked at that, hearing that for the first time. I was like, really? Yeah, if you've got enough of a name and you're willing to do the travel, then you can make just as much money outside of WWE than you can inside.
Yeah, I mean, well, like Owens went on record to state that he sort of like took a pay cut to go to NXT.
Yeah. Now, I'm sure he's making more money now as Universal Champion, of course. But at the end of the day, Paige wasn't in that position, was she? She was barely being used at all. So, yeah, fair enough. Like, it's one of those things that maybe more of the talent now are realizing that WWE isn't the be-all and end-all of their careers. And especially in Paige's degree, if she, let's say in 5 years' time even, decides, you know what, I'll fancy one more run back in WWE, she's still young enough that she can do that. And she'll be fine. And she'll still be a fantastic wrestler. So the options are on the table for someone like her, but we'll soon see. Delete or Decay? The Deletion 2, or the sequel, as some have called it. We talked about a little bit this last week, but me saying the only real way that really TNA are going to get more traction regards to this is if they make it more over the top and weird. They achieved going a bit more over the top and weird.
They achieved nothing.
You weren't convinced at all. You were completely against it, were you?
I did not enjoy it.
Did not enjoy Delete or Decay?
No.
I will say that they went above it. You could tell they were trying, right? But I always said, man, I'll go back to what I said last week, and after watching it, my opinion hasn't changed. They've lost the ability now to shock people with it. You know?
Yeah. I mean, there's so many references to the old one, like to the original Deletion. Especially when it's like, well, they're running away from fireworks, and guess what? The boat's there again. And he's going to fall in the water. It's like, okay, well, we've done that. Yeah.
It was almost like it was replaying back the greatest hits of the first one. With a few extra little bits here and there. It plays out. Basically, the story of it here is that Broken Matt has now assimilated Brother Nero into a husk of himself. So now
Nero.
Yeah. So now he's a slave, essentially, to what Broken Matt wants him to be. And Decay are coming to get him, which is a TNA stable, which look like at times that they were in a late night, one of those paint drum parties, and they were just drumming all night with the fucking paint, and it went all over their face. That's what it looks like to me. I know they had Abyss there, and he looked like he just fell into a fucking vat of acid, and like the Joker, it kind of just changed.
I think this kind of goes back to what I was saying to you earlier, though. It's like, I think I'd care more if I actually watched TNA. Like, when originally it was Matt versus Jeff Hardy, and it doesn't matter what, like you know, as a non-TNA watcher, it's okay. I know who Matt and Jeff Hardy are, or who they are. Like, I don't watch TNA. I don't know who Decay are. Turns out one of them is Abyss. Okay, I know who Abyss is, but
yeah. What about the creepy girl with the albeit quite nice tits? I was going to say right there, whatever she was wearing kind of pushes those babies up a bit. So
the thing is, I had seen them before on TV. Because at one night I was like, oh, it's not really much on TV. I guess I watched TNA for a little bit, and I watched like 5 minutes. I saw their entrance, and I was like, wait a minute, what am I doing? There's whatever on this other channel. Oh no, that was it. I changed it. That was how much. And I was like, it's a bit weird. Oh, well.
What I'm saying, I'm not saying this was completely bad. I was still entertained over the time I said it. It's just not going to have the same effect as the first one did because it was so out there and outlandish. And this is, but it just doesn't have the shock factor anymore. There was some cool visuals in it, though. They did a bit where they did almost like that crappy first movie of Daredevil where they did the double D and the flames. They did that with the fucking Hardy thing. And that was
yeah.
Senior Benjamin did have the best line here when Decay show up and they ask him what he's doing. He's like, "I'm digging your graves, my friends." I thought that was quite cool, quite a funny line. That actually gave me a giggle.
Senior Benjamin.
So, yeah. And obviously, as you say that, Matt, Senior Benjamin got taken away at the end and along those lines. Oh, one other thing that I did, which I thought was very weird, I'm sure you'll have pictures put up on all the meme sites, is that Matt Hardy ejaculated over the sound of his son playing a toy piano. So, yeah, there is that. So, that's quite interesting. But let's just say, I mean, I've heard, it's almost like the Miz thing. A lot of fans have been going, oh, this is exactly what TNA needed, and who knows, they'll get such mainstream attraction from doing this. I'm like, they got mainstream attraction from doing the first one, but I've not seen any of those same big sites talking about this at all, but they did talk about the first one. So it's one of those things that it's not being picked up back again. It's not shocking anymore to people. So
it wasn't much at all.
Although you do get to see the Hardys fight a kangaroo with the soul of Smoking Joe Frazier in it, so
yeah, and like a tiger that was Genghis Khan.
Yeah, Matt, I know you scoffed at that when talking to me, but how do you know that doesn't have the soul of Genghis Khan in it? You just don't know.
No.
Fucking when you say that.
No.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Shall we slowly tiptoe away from this or risk
the one thing I quite liked is actually like where it's like, and what are you going to do? And they just wander off and he just, like Benjamin just turns the shovel around and it says delete and he smiles.
Senior Benjamin is the saving grace in all of this. That's the one thing. He's just he's something special right there. I will say right there. So there we are. Good old Senior Benjamin. But talking of other shows that we don't normally get to catch often, NXT is something that I've been able to catch that much of, but I caught it this week. It was one of those things that I was like, I've heard Raw is a bit annoying in places, so I'll watch NXT first. Big notes here. There's a couple of notes that I really liked. Obviously, Ember Moon wrestling again. Another strong showing, Matt. Very impressed by Ember Moon. Doing very, very well. All I have to say to her is that you have to be careful because if you get to the main roster, you know, a lot of people know that I have a big soft spot for Lana, but Ember Moon might end up taking that away from her. So There might have to be, I don't know if that might cause fight. Because I know, Matt, getting the adulation from Turbo Tony is a big deal. So it might cause fights. And I don't want that to happen, you know?
True.
You stayed suspiciously silent there throughout all of that. Are you saying that I don't have impact or influence? No? You're not buying into that? No?
I don't want to say you don't, because if I say that you do, then you will lose most of it. Most of it's in the fact that you play subtle, underhanded tactics.
Oh, well, there you go. Matt, I'll take that. You danced around it in a pirouette. Lovely dancing, but you did quite well there, so I'll take that. I'll tell you one thing I did like about this, Matt. One thing I loved, absolutely loved. You know the one thing I hate about when John Cena loses championships? He runs out there and he goes, well, by God, I gave him my best shot, but I'm good and I'm going to keep on going because I'm John Cena and I'm the face that runs the place and I'm the 15th time. And I'm like, it really doesn't feel like you gave any shit because you know you're going to win it back in like a couple of months' time because you're John Cena. Samoa Joe.
Though, if you, I think something like it's been, oh Christ, what was it? I think apparently it's been like 4 years since he was last world champion.
4 years?
World champion.
4 years may be a bit much. Can't be 4 years because he was champion going against Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam in 2014. So that's definitely wrong. So
I will shut up then.
Matt, normally it's
or
you.
Two, or something like that.
Getting my facts wrong in the trivia. So I've gotten you back there a little bit.
Hush.
No, I will take it, Matt, though. He hasn't been world champion for a while. But even then, in his general consensus, when he loses the championship, it's like, whoa, it's okay, because I'll win it again, because I'm John Cena. And I'm like, I hate the fact that the title seems so, like, you like there's no pain there when he loses a title, right? And a lot of fans have been annoyed at that. Samoa Joe this week, it's the first time we've seen him since TakeOver, since losing his title. And he's on commentary during a Nakamura and Steve Cutler match. Samoa Joe looks downright depressed, right? He looks like he lost a piece of himself. Like, honestly, it looked like the title affected him so much from losing it. Like, he's lost his world. And he just looks dejected. He looks forlorn. He's just like, what else can I fucking say? I lost the title. It's not a good feeling. You know what I mean? Like, the guy, honestly, like, it looked like it was devastating to him to lose that title. So I'm looking at this guy, and even Samoa Joe, who's come across as this badass, you know, even him losing the title is painful. So much so that he can't really hide it. I actually really like that. I was like, finally we got a champion that when he loses his championship, he doesn't just bounce back and say, well, don't worry, I'll beat you next time. He's like, yeah, I lost my title, and guess what?
It sucked.
It fucking sucks. Yeah, no way to get around it, you know. He also says that he's going to change up his approach to the rematch because he realizes now that his approach was wrong, that Nakamura had sort of gotten into his head. And that was the story that they told leading into Brooklyn 2, that Nakamura did just that with the stealing of his nose and being a little bit playful and just kind of, you know, being lighthearted, happy-go-lucky Shinsuke Nakamura. And that just outraged Joe. Like, he couldn't deal with it, and that put him right into Nakamura's game. Apparently, Joe realizes that now, and he's going to make a different approach to his rematch. So I thought it was a good episode of NXT. You had a good tag team match there, TM61 against a couple of the cruiserweights. So that's good shit.
Look, so I'm so behind on my NXT.
Go on.
Who the fuck are TM61?
So they're a couple of Australian guys. They're good. They're a good tag team. They're all right. They're not. I would say they're not excitable enough that I would be like, okay, it's time to plug them into a tag team title match. But at least it gives the tag team division something. They're good. They're all right.
Okay. Because obviously, like, I know who like House of Pain are and that, but I got no fucking clue who like TM are.
Yeah, well, TM61. I would urge you to at least have a look at their matches. They're okay. But they're not showstoppers yet. But that's okay. That's all right. And I'm sure they'll get there. The Authors of Pain, I haven't seen them much at all. I'm sure they've been around. I just haven't been able to catch them. But Yeah, just haven't really seen them do much since battering Gable and Jordan, but who knows? We'll see what goes from there. It's one of those awkward things that as a heel, they can't really challenge for the champions against what is the quintessential heel tag team at the moment. So they're going to be the next heel tag team that challenges the next faces that will beat the Revival for those titles. So they're just in a process of build-up at the moment. So, all right then. So shall we get into our fan feedback?
I think we shall.
We shall indeed. Billy McGee asks, how would we have booked Daniel Bryan's IC title run if he didn't get injured and then obviously had to retire? I think the original plan, Matt, from WWE's end was to make him, like, for instance, and that was around about the time that John Cena won the US title the same night that Bryan won the IC championship, if I'm not mistaken, WrestleMania 31. Yeah, that sounds about right. So basically what they were going to do was Cena doing the open challenges and stuff on every single week. They were going to have Bryan not do exactly the same thing, but essentially be that strong mid-level champion that would put on a lot of very good matches for that mid-tier belt and start building it back up again. And then, of course, injury happened. He was never able to recover properly, so it was the second championship that he had to relinquish, first being the World Championship, of course. So the whole point of the IC title, Matt, is that it's a wrestling wrestlers championship, right? It's the WWE Championship. Back in the day, at the very least, was the top championship, but it was for the top star of the show that would sell the most tickets. That didn't always mean he was the best wrestler or he could put on the best matches, bearing the fact that during the time of WWE's heyday in the 80s and 90s, you had Hulk Hogan as world champion, and Hulk Hogan certainly was not the best wrestler that WWE had. I think Bret Hart would have a few things to say about that. So I think the plan, I mean, what I would go with, and what I heard the WWE were going with, they wanted to try and get something back to that the IC title match would be the best wrestling match of a special, but the world title would be the more interesting one with your Brock Lesnar's and your John Cena's and, and the big name matches like that. So I probably would have gone along with that. Especially with Bryan being that champion, you could really make it so... Like what I would have done with hindsight, Matt, and I wonder how you think about this. This is the benefit of hindsight, so really you can't take this too far, but I would make it that Bryan only wrestles at the pay-per-views and the odd couple of matches on Raw every now and then. That way you could keep it so his health issues are at bay, and when he does wrestle, Matt, it's like the king of the castle finally coming out of his... off his throne, and
I think we may see that with. I think well, I very much doubt it because I think they've pretty much given up on it already. It was like the whole Miz Bryan thing is the fact that it's still a lot of the case that Bryan's doctors have cleared him. It's just WWE who won't clear him. But oh well. I've lost my train of thought. I reckon, he would go on a part-time contract. I don't think he could. I reckon to know that Daniel Bryan having a feud and just sort of like, and it'll all come to a culmination at this point, like maybe have a scrap the episode like the week beforehand, and then it will come to a culmination at the pay-per-view. And he did sort of like essentially three events. Yeah. I reckon he's over to the point that that could work.
Yeah, I mean, especially around about the time that you won the IC title, I know fans would have wanted. I'm not saying that you wouldn't have seen him every single week. You still would have, but this is obviously, like I said, with the benefit of hindsight. But it's one of those things that you could have just had him on commentary on the weeks that involved the IC Championship, or have him in segments, everything like this. I always think that WWE should learn from the fact that Brock Lesnar is their most valuable commodity, and he very rarely wrestles. And I think that when you're a champion in WWE, I would automatically, I mean, when you're a champion WWE, the initial thought is, we need to make you wrestle every single fucking night because you're the champion, you need to lead the company.
Yeah.
Whereas my other thought would be, maybe not. Maybe if we have it so the champion very rarely wrestles because guess what? He's the champion. He has nothing to prove.
Champion's advantage.
Champion's advantage, right?
Almost
He gets
like
to stay
champion's advantage. Like the whole, like, oh, he could just run away if he wants to, or just simply enough, they just don't. He's just like, no. I'll let them just scrap it out to find out who gets to face me, but until then, I don't care.
Yeah. I mean, all the champion has to do is defend his championship, although WWE bend this rule so often, once every 30 days. That's all he has to wrestle. No one has to says he has to wrestle those other times. It's up to the other contenders to vie for position and wrestle every single week to try and get the opportunity against the champion. That way, when the champion actually wrestles, it's a big fucking deal, and those title matches are going to be really important to watch.
I think it's because I think WWE like to float around the banner like, they're a fighting champion. And it's like...
Yes.
And as a result, everyone must be a fighting champion.
But hell, even their heel champions are made to wrestle every single week. And I think...
he should be sat on his arse all like... weeks on end, just sort of like, nah, I ain't got to do shit.
Yeah, Kevin Owens right now, especially considering he was apparently chosen by Triple H, he shouldn't be wrestling anything apart from pay-per-views, and that should be part of his thing. I know other people are going to say to us, but how then you keep telling us about quality of matches on Raw and everything like this. No, I'm asking him to tell us better stories. That's what I'm saying. I in fact, wrestlers wrestle each other too much. How many times now has Cesaro wrestled Sheamus? How many times has Owens wrestled Sami Zayn? And he wrestled him again this week. It happens too much. So at very least, when you've got the champion not wrestling every single week and only on the pay-per-views, and like I said, every so often on Raw or their respective show now, then it makes it more special. And it makes you being a champion seem like a hotter commodity. I know we went on a fucking wide tangent here about talking about champions in general. But yeah, I would go with that. And I tell you what else that would fix, Matt. If WWE was strict about this, it would fix the fact that they seem to like making people beat their champions in non-title matches leading up to a pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Because then they're not wrestling. They can't lose non-title matches. You know what I mean? That's what I go with here. But still.
It protects them as well, sort of prevents, like, really looking weak.
Yeah, but anyway, let's tie this back to Bryan. That's how I would have gone with him anyway. I made him a real proper staple, and I would have given him a long, lengthy title run where it looks for a long time that, at very least on the level that Bryan's on, there isn't that many people out there that could out-wrestle Daniel Bryan. And you're going to have to out-wrestle him to beat him, and it just doesn't ever seem to happen. And that way you build up some, I'm not even asking for a new guy, but even a current guy, get him have a couple of wins on the trot, getting him some momentum over the course of this time. Then you build up to a match that eventually crosses the championship over. But, that's how I would have put Bryan. I basically would have made him. I would have put him on a pedestal, and I would have made him almost like the king of the castle and have people vying for the very chance of even wrestling him, let alone trying
like
to
the privilege.
Yes, that's how I would have gone with it. And Bryan doesn't have to be heel for that because you make it so that's just how things work. And Bryan is just more than happy that he's just carrying the way things on as they now are. He's the champion. He only wrestles in championship matches and very rarely otherwise. Then you make those title matches really important. And but still, we'll go into it there. Any other way that you would have changed Daniel Bryan's title run if he hadn't got injured, or do you think? Because we went kind of broad there and said that any champion shouldn't be wrestling that often.
But we also kind of went like, but what if he came down injured, but they could keep him going, sort of thing. But I don't know. The trouble is, I reckon it'd just get a bit washed. I mean, the only thing I can say would just be, well, at least the Miz wouldn't be fine. Wouldn't be champion.
Yeah, you would hope. The championship, there isn't that many people available to challenge for that title, but we'll hopefully that's something that just gets fixed over time and they bring people up.
Yeah.
It's one of those things, Matt, that, I mean, you've been saying over the course of this week, what if So gets brought up, and it's almost like they have to go to SmackDown now to fill out that side. SmackDown is fine in tag teams. They're starting to get okay with their women's division. It's their singles men's division at the moment that is struggling a little bit, but I'm sure they will figure it out as time goes on. Adamos Marcos has a very interesting question here. And I urge anyone that's listening to this not to let their inner social justice warrior overcome them and actually see this for what he's saying. And what Adamos Marcos is saying is, what are we making of Sasha Banks recently? She seems to have turned into a kind of annoying feminist, as if the whole women's revolution has gone to her head. She's belittling the Divas Championship, despite some women holding that belt being pretty decent, like Mickie James, etc.
Yeah.
And then she was like, oh, well, we're doing rights for women. And then in the same breath, she's calling Dana Brooke Miss Piggy when she comes down and interferes with her. So it's important to know here. Let me go with this a little bit, Matt, because I've written out a lot of response to this. Because a lot of people are going to listen. You have to word this very carefully, Adamos, because some people are going to see this and go, well, it was wrong that they were doing bras and panties matches, and we're in a better space for that. And I would agree with that. But I can see what you're actually asking here, which is the fact that Sasha Banks constantly going on about that now being a detriment to her character? Yeah. That's your real question here, and I understand what you're asking. It's important to note that while I'm sure that Sasha really does believe in what she says, I'm sure she is glad that there is no bra and panties matches. I'm sure she's glad that women are being referred to as superstars, and now they have a proper belt rather than a butterfly belt. I'm sure that's all correct. But WWE are still writing her promos. WWE are still telling her what to say and how to say it.
Yeah.
There's an important statement. Here's an important statement, right, that I think that will underline a lot of what I'm about to say. And this is very important. Promoting a revolution that is still in its process is far more marketable than a revolution that has already succeeded. What I mean by that, because that is a bit of a deep line there. Basically, what it means is that WWE are going to get their women to go out and talk about how great it is that this revolution is in effect, because talking about it happening is something that they can parade in front of sponsors, in front of possible investors, to the media, to the fans, which are getting increasingly socially belligerent, all those fronts. If they had a revolution that just happened without them promoting it, and they eventually got to the end product, and at the very end they went, well, look at everything that we've done now, it's not nearly as marketable for them. They can't market it as much, because then people will be like, well, yeah, you did that before. It's better for them to be in the middle of sweeping change than to be on the ending part of collectively achieving that change. That's the reason Sasha Banks is constantly going out there and saying women's rights, women's rights, women's rights, women's rights. Even though it's correct, and I agree with what she's saying, I would agree with you front on this, that, Matt, on Raw, on the time that I've seen her, either it's a very cookie-cutter promo you're getting from Sasha,
I saw her promo from this week.
Yeah. Either you get a very cookie-cutter promo, which is, I'm going to beat you, I'm better than you, blah, 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 or you're getting this social change speak. There's no difference there. You're either getting one or the other. And it's the same speech that she's doing when it comes on that front. So I guess fans are just being a little bit more, they're being less open to it, because I think they're seeing it now really for what it is. On that front, that WWE are very desperate to market the shit out of the fact that they are now in a progressive environment.
Yeah.
That's basically where it is now. And the funny thing is, right, I mean, one of the things you say to Adamos is that it's funny that they bash things like the butterfly belt and the Divas tag. WWE will be more than happy to bash things they did in the past as long as the story plays out that they're better for it now. It's all about perception is ultimately key here. They worry so much about how the news outlets, how mainstream journalism and websites and fans in general, how they are perceived by them. That is so paramount, and that is such a driving factor with them on how they try and get certain things over to the crowd, and how they try and portray themselves. the fact is they want to act as if they're on the forefront of progressive change, whereas they're only really doing it now because they're kind of catching up to what a lot of other, organizations are doing anyway. It's important. It's an important thing for the character of Sasha and for WWE as a whole that their actions speak louder than their words. Nobody said anything negative about what Sasha was saying about this when she was in the middle of doing groundbreaking matches with Bayley in NXT, because her actions were speaking louder than her words. At the moment, Sasha, her actions aren't speaking that loud. WWE and Sasha in general are calling their shots too often, saying, look at all the fantastic stuff we're doing. And that's all well and good, but she isn't doing that much great stuff on the main roster at the moment, not to the level of what she was doing before at the very least. So, fans are a bit like, and one thing I will say, just to follow up on this, Matt, before I give you some space to follow up here, the entire women's revolution was botched anyway because WWE kept telling us how amazing it was, and it really wasn't. For a long while, they botched that division until recently they've kind of got things a little bit back in order. I think her promo on Raw, I'll go into a little bit more in the Raw review, I think it was badly constructed and it was badly designed. She shouldn't have teased her retirement. That was a dumb way to get into it. Yeah. A Mark Henry, she is not. I will just leave that at least. But what do you think with this? Because I think that Adam Moss is onto something here on this front. I think that Sasha's injuries have really damaged how much she's been able to let her actions back up the words that she's saying every single week.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the one thing, because a lot of it is just with like WWE are banking on sort of like what she's done in NXT, and like there's only a percentage of the crowd that would know what she's done. Yeah, okay, so she's kind of got herself a bit. I don't want to keep referencing back that's where she's like where she got her name, where she got sort of famous from. Because she has done some good matches on Raw, on SmackDown, like before the brand split, and on pay-per-view as well. But she hasn't done a lot on the main roster. So I can see where you're coming from. Like, she hasn't done a great deal in regards to sort of actually sort of like, all right, money where your mouth is, let's fucking go.
Which isn't entirely her fault. That's WWE's as well. That's why I put the blame on WWE more than her.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of, especially when she's pulling off all these like promos about like, oh, it's all about the change and like it's been really good and like it's been great and like I'm not having to like swan around in a thong and in the middle of the ring and all that lot. But wasn't it just? It was like WWE's own creative plan that they just at one point went, "Nah, we're just not going to have her on TV." Because it builds suspense. Okay, yeah, well, it kind of did, but you took away like precious airtime that she had to, really get herself over.
Yeah, there was a time, Matt, where she was perfectly poised to become the face of the entire women's division, and it just hasn't panned out that way. Now, whether or not that's her getting injured and stuff like this, I'll go into a little bit more of that in the Raw review as well, because apparently she's cleared to compete at the next event, which boggles my mind to why she would have lost the championship there.
When is Clash of Champions?
I think it was like 6 weeks after SummerSlam, so I'm guessing it's like 3 weeks after this week. So there is that. But I keep forgetting that Backlash is like... It's like
tomorrow as we're recording.
Yeah, tonight as you're listening to it, yeah. So I haven't even got predictions up for that, so we'll do it at the end of the show. So it's one of those things that, like, I do agree with what Sasha's saying, and I do agree with it, but it's one of those things that WWE... It's one of those things that, when Michael Cole... I'll equate it to this. When Michael Cole is calling a match, and it's a good match, and even though we know it's good and it could be a classic, it could be a match of the year candidate, he starts shouting out about how amazing the match is and, oh, this is definitely going to be match of the year at the end of the year. It's like, you can't do that. You have to let the fans make their decision for themselves. You can't start putting points on it.
Yeah, like, I am my own individual. I have my own mind. Let me come to the conclusion.
Yeah. That's just the bottom line of it there. Like, it's WWE trying to call their shot, and you ain't Babe Ruth. That's the way I say it, and you can't do that. And when you do that, and you haven't succeeded completely of where you're talking, then the fans are going to look at you like you're stupid. And unfortunately, when it comes to these particular topics, I want WWE to ace it, and I want them to do it correctly, and I am behind them, and I do want them to succeed. So, that's why I'm not completely bashing on what they're doing here. But I would admit, like, for instance, if Sasha comes out next week and it says exactly again, about women's changing, I'd be like, okay, you've now got to let your actions do that. Now instead of saying, oh, the women's division is a fantastic place, now we get to wrestle every single week, actually wrestle every single week. Actually have those matches that you're talking about.
Yeah,
that's
sort of like, oh, we can now get like 15-minute matches. Right, have a 15-minute match.
Yeah. Have these storylines that get us really emotionally involved. Because at the moment, I mean, in terms of Sasha anyway, if I look at Sasha, they've botched her. And they botched her because she didn't win the championship at WrestleMania 32 when she should have. Then they botched it because she won the championship eventually after being away for God knows how long. We were talking months. For some reason, she was gone. And then when she came back, she won the title, and then she lost it like 3 weeks later, clean against a heel. I still can't get over that. I don't know why that happened. There was a point here in her promo on Raw where she had to admit, yeah, I lost. And I can't blame it on anything, which is a bit unfortunate. And I'm like, yeah, you did. And really, what's the point of you really getting a rematch? Because you were completely, Yeah,
there's no, oh, but what if it was this or what if it was that? No, there was none of that. You cleanly lost.
Yeah, it's that was the problem there. They should have found an interesting way for Charlotte to... I'm guessing they were maybe banking on the fact that maybe they could go, well, Charlotte injured me and she was out to injure me. But I'm like, that's a stupid thing anyway, because all wrestlers technically, if you can injure your opponent and win, that's the whole part of wrestling, right? I'm not saying wrestling as we do it, but kayfabe, you know what I mean? You're not out
like
there.
Kayfabe, you beat your opponent till they can't, beat a count of 3 for a pin.
Yeah, so I think when you've got promos out there and they're in kayfabe and they're like, oh, yeah, she was out to injure me. I'm like, yeah, and you should have been out to injure her. Yeah. Brock Lesnar goes out and fucking murders people for real. And yet, in kayfabe, I can't disagree with what he's doing, because in kayfabe, he's killing people, which is exactly what you do to get above the next group. Stone Cold Steve Austin would, in the height of his popularity, do you think he would care if he injured people? The character of Austin, he would give 2 shits if he injured people. In fact, he would love it if he did. How many times he's like, I'm going to
stomp a mud hole, walk it dry.
Yeah, so I think it's a bit dumb when they come out with that, but still. All right, then. So leading into these segments that we've got this week, the fail of the week. Now, Matt, when I was thinking of this, now we did a lot of fails of the week beforehand. I decided not to go into the WCW treasure trove.
Okay.
We did fail of the week for a long, long time, Matt. A lot of them were WCW fails, and I have to say, Matt, there's still a lot in there. WCW fucked up a lot, right? That's
Agreed.
Agreed. But I went to one that was a little bit more recent, and I thought of, okay, let's talk about one that actually got an award from our show, no less. A winner of the coveted Worst Segment of the Year award is this fail of the week. Matt, get ready to cry in tears and agony. We're going to talk about Kathy Lee Gifford and Hoda. You instantly hate me.
I'd forgotten about that.
Oh, let's
Why must I bring it up again?
Oh, because it's fail at the back.
Forgotten about it.
Do you not agree that this entire segment was a fail?
Yes.
Then it's fail of the week, Matt. It's fail of the week. So there we are. So let's talk about this a little bit. For fans that maybe don't know about this, because Matt, we raged about this. There's actually famously, if you go back into one of the montages we did, there's me fucking going insane about this segment. I lost the fucking plot. I went mental about this. And really what it was is because it was basically we're casting our eyes back to a time where WWE was so desperate for mainstream coverage of this show, because we're back at a time now where things were just so fucking stale, right? Really bad at that time. where we didn't have our Nakamura's, we didn't have our AJ Styles, we didn't have, we had the Shield, of course, but they were the Shield and they hadn't got come into their own yet. And they were basically the best thing of the show. So there was a lot of bad stuff going on, shall we say. So they were so desperate for mainstream coverage that they allowed 2 old women, let's be honest here, right?
Who've gone out and slated the industry.
Yeah, who've gone out and Hoda not so much, but definitely Kathy Lee Giffen has gone out on record and says that she fucking despises pro wrestling. But yeah, they were paying her, so she went out there. She went out. They obviously don't give a single fuck about wrestling. They didn't understand the fan base they're in front of, and then proceeded to do things that I don't understand why WWE ever give the green light for. So they come out. First of all, they act as if they're already drunk. I don't know. I don't understand why they did that, but they seem to think that WWE was like a circus show, and as long as they made loud noises and bad jokes, it would be fine. So there was that. They come out. They dance because being tortured by them being there is just not enough, Matt. We have to be tortured in various disturbing and cruel ways. Of course, by them dancing. Both of them can't dance a lick, by the way. And then they break bottles of wine on each other's asses.
I've forgotten so much about this promo.
Yeah, Matt, I'm unlocking the deepest, darkest parts of your memory here to a time where I honestly still to this day, and we're talking a couple of years have gone by since then now.
Has it been years?
Oh, years. We're talking years. And I still have no reason for them being out there. I don't know if there's any sense to be made out of this entire segment. And to this day, I don't understand what they were selling. Because normally when you get someone to come on, when Betty White came on, Matt, yeah, she wasn't obviously nearly as bad as it. She was a little bit funny, but she was selling her new comedy show. I still remember that to this day. So clearly whatever they did worked, right?
Bob Barker.
Bob Barker is Bob Barker. You know, he's selling his, whatever he's doing there.
To your pets.
Pee Wee Herman, I think he had a movie out, so he came on and he sold the movie, right? Fucking Seth Greenwood was out there. I think he got a Robot Chicken fucking plug in there. So I can already still kind of remember some of the things that they were selling there when they came on. It made some sort of sense. Matt, I don't know why they were here. I still don't know. I'm trying to understand. I'm trying to make sense of it. And even after all this time, I'm looking at it and I'm like, but where does the pieces fit? Where does it go? How does it not make sense? I don't know. I don't know.
I forget.
Yes. I don't understand. Does it make sense?
No.
I don't know. It's disturbing. I don't understand it.
No. It just was.
Of all the other fails of the week, some of them you just like slap yourself and just they were just managed badly. Like a lot of the WCW ones, you're just like they obviously had too much money, just didn't know what to do with it, and therefore they started flushing it down the drain. I just can't wrap my head around this segment about how it was created, how they thought this was a good reason, and how the fact that Vince McMahon forgot the fact that Kathy Lee Giffen. I mean, the pair of them afterwards because they got a lot of slack. I mean, the fans after being just so shocked that
were not up for it.
Yeah, they were not up for it. So, like, the day afterwards, they went on their show and they started slating wrestling. Literally the day after they made appearance on Raw. They're like, oh, yeah, we don't know. Oh, I don't know why we did it. And I'm like, of course you know why you did it. Because it's got way more exposure than your own show. And you got paid.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You know exactly why you did it. Don't act stupid. Or maybe, Matt, they are. And I'm just giving them too much credit. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe they are actually stupid. Maybe WWE did it as a joke and they thought it would be funny. And once it was done, they just didn't. Oh, actually, it's not really that funny. We're going to send them out there to go and basically give them enough rope to hang themselves verbally, and it just didn't end up turning out that way. I don't know. Matt, I'm trying to make sense here. I'm trying to come up with reasons. It still doesn't make sense to me. I don't know. Guys, I want you in the comment section to come out with a reason that this makes sense. And the only way you can do it is by something grossly outlandish, because otherwise you have to basically confuse me into making me think you're correct with your reasons for why this was done. Because there is no earthly reason why this happened. So there we are, Matt. I'm sorry to bring it up, and I'm sure that a part of you is dying inside, but there you go. I wasn't even planning to rant on it again. But looking back at it now, as I said, Matt, I'm just getting angry because I'm confused.
You brought this upon yourself.
I have. It hurts my brain. I don't know. I honestly don't know. But there we are. Will we agree, Matt? We've seen some painful celebrity endorsements. That takes the fucking biscuit right there.
Oh yeah.
I remember a Michael Strahan segment being very awkward, but that was just awkward. This was torturous. This was like dragging your nutsack across a cactus. Yeah. This is like rubbing the very edges of your butthole with sandpaper. Did that make you wince a bit there, Matt?
A little bit of cringe.
That's the same response I had upon watching the segment. So
that's very true.
There you go. So there you go, guys. I hope you did enjoy the fail of the week. And if you didn't, which I'm sure you didn't because it's the Kathy Lee Gifford and Hoda segment, then I'm sorry. I've probably just taken off like a couple of years off of your lifespan because that's what this promo tends to do to me. I've lost like 10 years from it. So, yeah. How many years of your life have you think you've lost to this?
I'm at least looking at about 6.
6. Yeah, I think that's fair. 6. Well, fuck it, Matt. We're never going to hit 100 at this rate, and we can blame it on these two women.
Yeah.
I'm going to put it on my gravestone. I didn't make 100. I blame it on, and I'll just put the exact date and the fucking and the timestamp of Raw. There you go.
Fuck you, Gifford and Hoda.
yeah. There you go, Matt. Perfectly, poetically. There you go.
Fuck you.
After getting so riled up over that, let's talk about something a little bit personal. So this is the personal stories segment. This is where we're going to bring the tone of the show down a little bit, relax a little bit, and just talk a little bit personally about wrestling experiences having an impact on us. If this is something that you guys enjoy, then obviously let us know and we'll try and do it more often. I don't see this being a segment that we do all the time because there's only so many moments we can really reenact. We're going to be talking about attending our first wrestling event. Now, I know we've spoken about this a little bit before, but not so much about how it affected us and our thoughts and feelings going into it. I asked you over the course of the week, Matt, to get some notes about your first wrestling event because we didn't go to the same one, or as poetic as that would be. Do you want to go first? Because I kind of ranted about Kathy Lee Gifford and Hoda. Like, what was your first wrestling event that you attended live, and how old were you?
The worst part is I can't even remember it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's like oddly enough, it can't be that. I must have been 18.
Oh, so a lot later than I was.
But it's UK. It was UK independent.
Mm.
But for who and where, I cannot recall.
Can you at least remember like memories or anything, or like how it kind of looked like and stuff like that, or? Is it just like
to be fair, I think it may have been. I think it was an EWF show at Chamberlain.
Okay, but I know that you attend like once you started attending like the local shows, you went to a lot of them in succession, didn't you? So it wasn't like one, and then it made an impact on you, and like 3 months later you went to another one. It was like
and also because EWF was the one that we trained with.
Mm-hmm.
So I got quite familiar with the Chamberlain venue. Yeah. Been there a few times.
Is that the one that we wrestled in? Or was that a different one?
No, that was Yapton Hall.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. I have no idea. You just drove me there, so I've got no fucking clue. So,
yeah.
I guess maybe then a different question towards you, Matt, because obviously you were a lot later. I was a lot younger when I went to my first wrestling event. The sort of, I guess, because by then, even though you haven't been to a wrestling show live, you still kind of know what to expect when you're that age, don't you? Because you're 18, you're let's just say you're wizened up to wrestling a bit, right? You kind of figured it out by that point. What was like your first experience then, kind of getting a little bit more cozy with the whole business of wrestling and kind of seeing backstage for the first time and stuff like this? Like, how were you feeling during those times? Like, I imagine it would have been a little bit, I mean, even on a small scale, it's a bit awe-inspiring. You kind of like, all I remember is that I didn't know what to say, but I didn't know how to act because, you know, wrestlers have got this very close code.
Stories of like etiquette and things like that. I was kind of in that same sort of boat where it was generally a case of, for the most part, I was introduced to like John, the promoter, and things like that. And then from then on, it was just sort of like, and then it was like, there is the etiquette, but it's simply enough you introduce yourself.
Yeah.
Like, don't expect someone to just sort of go, oh, by the way, have you met? They just go around and just sort of like, hi, my name is, and it's always just the handshake.
Yeah, as long as you make that impression. I was always horrendous at that.
Yeah.
Like, now I'm not so bad. I'll go up to someone, I'll shake it, because now I find it as rude. I think it's a confidence thing. When I was young, I didn't have that confidence. I almost thought it was disrespectful for me to go and not do that, which is weird to think of it that way, you know. Like, I thought it would be disrespectful for me to think I was important enough to actually go up and shake their hand and say, oh, look at me, I'm Tony and X. But I guess in the wrestling circles, it's like you making a statement, making your, you know, being a man in that sense, and shaking the hand of promoter and saying, yeah, thanks for the opportunity, thanks for letting me, you know, yeah. So yeah, it's along those lines.
Because yours was much younger, wasn't it? Was it?
Oh, it was a lot younger. Yeah,
spoken about this before. Where it's like Haystacks or something.
No, it was Avalanche that I saw.
That's it.
So I've talked about this before. Here's the thing. Because thinking about this anyway, I was talking about a little bit. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the event now. But that event is the first one that I can instantly remember, and I've still got images to this day of it, so obviously it had an impact on me. But I am sure that I went to an event before then. But I can't remember. So either I was very, very young, to the point that
very memorable,
or it wasn't memorable at all, or for some reason I wasn't into wrestling as much back then. I don't know, because I remember as soon as I found wrestling on the TV, I was fucking blown apart. Sold. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this was the first one I went to. But basically what it is, one of those things where you got a friend, his dad is taking him to see wrestling, you're a good friend, you're staying over the night, naturally you go along as well. And that's basically what happened here with a good friend of ours called Richard. Unfortunately, don't see him that much. I wonder if he actually listens to the show. Let us know if he is. If you are, sorry. So one of the things, because I was a lot younger at that point, even though I was still younger, I was still in my, I was probably around about the 12, 13 mark. So I was still, even though I was a lot younger than you were, I still, while I didn't understand wrestling fully, I understood that not everything was what they were making it out to be. Let's just say that. The allure, not so much the allure of wrestling, the veil over it was, I was starting to peek underneath it a little bit, starting to see how everything worked. Starting to figure it out, I guess, maybe. So while I knew it wasn't real, I still hadn't understood how they made me think it was real. And every now and then I'd slip back in and be like, oh, it has to be. Or maybe they're wrestling each other, not looking to actually hurt each other, but they're wrestling each other to exhaust each other. I came up with lots of other reasons at that age, but soon I figured it all out, but not at this current time. So I was obviously watching WWE, playing the games, right? So, Matt, I've always been a big gamer, so playing some of the games. What I got sold on a lot with WWE is obviously the pageantry of it and the fan responses. So when you see WWE, especially around that era, and WCW for that fact, even though by the point I'd seen this, that had all been over by that point, because we're talking about 2000, 2001. WCW was already in the shitter by then. But you still see the fan response, you see the big arenas. So when me going to a show, maybe naively, I thought, well, it's going to be like that. Like maybe not as big as that, maybe not like 10,000 fans, but it'll be a couple of thousand fans. But obviously, this is a local traveling show. You're going to pull at most, on a lucky day, 300, right? Tops. You know, they didn't pull anywhere close to that on the show that I went. And they had names there. I mean, that was famously, that was one of the shows that Jake the Snake was meant to be there, and he didn't show. That was one of his no-shows back in the heights of his addiction days around that time, which is a shame. And I was gutted. But they also had David Flair, which was Ric Flair's son, and he was been on WCW, so I'd seen him a lot. Obviously, he was looking for work there, and quite a fall from grace to see a guy like hanging off his father's coattails, but still wrestling in front of like buildings with 10,000 fans in it, and then suddenly he's wrestling in front of me like a couple of years later. Bit of a fall from grace at the very least. But it's one of those things that when you get there as a kid, I mean, even though it's on a smaller scale than what you initially think, because I remember the wrestling being pretty good. I remember the fact that by the time the first couple of matches got in, I didn't go in there and instantly look at everything and go, oh, it's not nearly as big as I thought it was. And, you know, they've got like picnic tables set with merchandise. It was very sort of very indie, Matt.
Yeah.
You know, let's just be honest. It didn't dishearten me. I was still quite excited. And I think that was mostly because I was getting to see some wrestling firsthand, and I wasn't, you know, expecting to see like WWE production and all this sort of shit. It's just my expectations were just a bit too high anyway. But I think once it got in, I mean, everyone was just excited. You know, young fan. There was a lot of kids there. They're all excited. So the excitement feeling was still there. One thing I remember all the way from it is that I was never bored throughout all of it, so I enjoyed it all. And it was like a 2-hour show. And I remember the fact that they were just doing classic, just indie wrestling, which is they establish who the face is early on, they establish who the heel is early on, and then they tell the story, you know, and try and get the fan responses where they can. And when the face eventually won at the end of the night, I remember that loads of kids were like in the crowd, all in like the front row. And when he won, he fell to the bottom rope to celebrate, and all the kids came to like the bottom rope to go and celebrate with him. And I wasn't that close to the ring. I was like a couple of rows back, so it wasn't able to run up or anything like that. I didn't even think you were fucking allowed to, but these kids clearly felt they did. And obviously he was celebrating with them and all this sort of stuff, and sent the group home happy. They had like signings afterwards with some of the guys there. I just remember like my whole feeling around it is that I thought, looking back on it now, as a kid who had his hopes up to see a massive arena with lights and fireworks, to seeing a very indie show, because that's really what it is, where you've got taped audio as the entrances, and you know what I mean, with the very bad audio quality, and the ring doesn't look particularly fantastic. I still remember it looking at it and being like, well, this is still pretty fucking cool, and I had a lot of fun with it there. I will remember though that, however, that being said, that was the show I guess that, as I was saying earlier on, that I was starting to peek under the veil a little bit and seeing how everything works. That was the show where I kind of started figuring it out big time, because the quality of wrestling was okay, but maybe me seeing it firsthand and hearing some of the calls and seeing the noises firsthand, and you start picking up a little bit, that shall we say. So coming out of it, I was a little bit more educated, maybe, is probably the better word. So, awesome. I remember feeling, though, just the sense of, even though, like, the mystique and everything had started to come off a little bit from wrestling at that point, I was still, maybe that's the reason why I'm still talking about it now. I guess some fans, when that mystique is peeled back and they realise what wrestling is, then they lose all interest. They're like, well, it's not what I thought it was, and fuck this, I'm gone. You know, and I'm going to go and watch boxing or UFC because that's real. With me, once that veil had been pulled back, I liked what I saw. It's really hard to explain. But I guess you kind of get what I'm saying here?
I get what you're saying, yeah.
That once I saw all the cogs and everything moving in, I realized, oh, this isn't what it looks like when you put the veil over it. I still liked it. I still enjoyed what it was. I still wanted to see how all the different integral parts worked to make the end product. And maybe that's the reason why I'm doing a podcast now with you and where we are, and why I still enjoy wrestling to that sort of degree. Yeah, that's really the choice of my, the story of my first wrestling show. The reason I really wanted to bring this up here is because what I really want to know from fans is that whole thing of me pulling back the veil and realizing it. I want to see what happened with our fans. Did you always grow up and it was just because some fans are younger now, Matt? I imagine they grow up and they already know, because WWE doesn't try and hide it anymore, that they're entertainment, right? Yeah. And they just instantly go out and tell you on their network and everything like this that it's not real, and they don't even try and make it seem real.
Yeah. Especially when they're like pushing shows now where it's like kayfabe breaking.
Yeah.
Well, it's not even breaking, it's broken, but I'm saying.
Yeah. It's one of those things that back in our day, I mean, we were growing up in a very cool era of wrestling. Yes, the whole thing of kayfabe was slowly dying as things wore on. But as a young fan, you could still fool yourself. And as a young fan growing up, you were still being told by your big brother or, family members, oh, yeah, look at this. Oh, yeah, they're definitely hitting each other. And you start getting, oh, yeah, fair enough. And it's only when you start getting older and you start realizing a little bit. And so in the comment section, apart from Kathy Lee Gifford and Hoda moments, let me know if you're particularly like in the same era of us, if you're close to like 30, which makes it sound quite old, but that's how I feel anyway. Let us know what happened with you. Was it a live wrestling show you went to? Maybe you just watched an episode of Raw and that's how you realized what was going on, or someone just did a whole Santa's not real and just fucking told you outright, okay, look what it's not, and I'll show you the reasons why it's not.
One thing actually, I think I remember the first match that I ever saw was it was at school.
Okay.
It might not have been. It's probably the one that was sort of like stands out to me the most. We're at school. It was a science class, and we had like nothing to do. I think it was like the end of the year or something. It's like, well, obviously, you got to stay in the classroom.
Yeah.
And somebody had the videotape, which had Rock versus Mankind in the empty stadium match.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah, that was the Super Bowl halftime match, wasn't it? That they did, wasn't it?
No, I don't think so. It's like completely empty.
Yeah, but they aired it in like the halftime of the Super Bowl. It was something about anyway.
Yeah. But I was just sort of like, whilst watching that, I was like, this is fucking cool.
Yeah,
and I love that. That was a great match.
Yeah. It's kind of cool that I hate to think maybe it's me just being old again, but I hate to think that some young fans are growing up and like the first match I saw that got me into wrestling was Randy Orton and John Cena. Oh God, I feel bad for you.
My favorite match is Melina versus Melina.
There are people growing up, Matt, that their favorite matches is Kalisto against Baron Corbin. Does that make you feel depressed?
No, they shouldn't be.
Oh well, but still. So let us know in the comments what you feel about that. It'd be very interesting to see. And if you do like these more personal stories or anything like this, then let us know. We'll talk about it more often. Because wrestling is as an entertainment product has a very unique way, I think, of latching onto people at certain moments of their lives and making them, feel certain things. When it's firing on all cylinders, it can be like no other entertainment product in the world, and that's why we love it. But still, anyway. Okay, so actually, wow, this podcast went on a little bit longer than I expected, but we're on to the Raw review. I'm going to cut out a lot of stuff here that doesn't make really the grade in terms of what I want to talk about. But we're now in the aftermath of the Kevin Owens monumental championship victory. We're now in the Kevin Owens show. There's a lot of fallout with Triple H's involvement in that match. And now they're going to start building up the Clash of Champions event, which they've barely talked about beforehand because they also had to get a champion in place to start building up. It's emanated from Kansas City. Now, they did a thing here, Matt. Before I get into what happened on this show was a weird show in the sense that there's some things in this show that I really like the direction that they went with and how they did it. And there's other things where it's like completely the switch of that I don't like where they're going and I don't like how they did it. It's one of those mixed bag Raws that unfortunately all the good stuff seemed to be in the first hour and then they just trailed off right towards the end that they didn't know what they were doing.
Typical Raw then. Typical
Raw. Once you get to the third hour, Matt, it's almost like they've run out of shit to do, you know? It certainly seemed that way here on this show, and there is some bad stuff. But anyway, before the actual live show starts, they air a conversation between Foley and Stephanie. Ordinarily, Matt, I wouldn't have even included this because the amount of conversations that Foley and Stephanie would have with each other happens constantly around the show. However, I actually really like this segment, and the reason being is you got Foley who goes up to her. And he's like, listen, I got to know what the fuck is going on here. You had Triple H interfering in the match last week. Did you know about it? You must know about it. He's your bloody husband. And Foley really gets over. I mean, he doesn't just go, well, tell me what to do. He makes it personal here. He's like, I remember the day that I jumped off the cell. Well, I don't remember much of what happened after I jumped off the cell, but I do remember them helping me out into the back with a tooth in my nose. And I remember seeing a shy smile from a young woman, you know? That young woman was you, Steph. You were looking out for me. You were worried about me. And I'm worried about you here. And they really make it personal here. And even Stephanie, she doesn't just talk Foley down and going, oh, you never bring up. She's like, yeah, I am still that girl. Like, I'm still, but I don't know what's going on. And honestly, I'm telling you the truth. And it came off like they had some proper character development going on.
Like a real, like, heart-to-heart moment sort of thing.
Yeah. And Mick's like, well, why didn't you respond to me? And she says, well, I didn't respond to you because I didn't know what to say. Because at the end of the day, what can I say about it? I felt embarrassed that it happened. I didn't know what to say to you, Mick. So it really comes across that there's an underlying connection between these two people that clearly respect each other. And maybe I'm running past this a bit, because it clearly is going to probably be Steph stabbing him in the back and then being evil, because that's what she's like. But I just thought this mini segment was pretty good because all it was responding to was just the relationship between two characters. It's something they don't do that often, because often what they'll do is just like, I don't like you, bad joke, we go wrestle. Whereas here it's more like, but I remember what you did back then. I remember looking at this girl back then and this relationship that we've had that's endured, and now we have this working relationship. I respect you, and I need to know the truth. I actually really like the mini segment, but still. We get the championship celebration of Kevin Owens. I will skip forward a lot of this stuff here and say that basically Rollins comes out. He is he basically is face now. You know, he's pissed off. He's not the Seth Rollins, sorry. He's not the Seth Rollins that would run from challenges anymore, the pussy Seth Rollins or the coward Seth Rollins. He is just straight up coming out and says, look, Owens, I don't have a problem with you, but you're kind of a fucking dickhead. You know, but in certain terms, that's kind of what he says, you know, like, you know, at the end of the day, you won the championship because you made a deal or like Triple H chose you. If you're going to step over me, what he actually says here is that, listen, if you're going to choose him over me, that's fine. I'm just going to destroy everything you ever built. And I'm like, that's pretty badass, right? It's pretty fucking cool. That's the sort of stuff that he has to say from now on out, because now he needs to be the action man, Rollins, right? He needs to step up to the challenges and not run away from them if he's going to be this face Rollins that's already getting the responses he needs. So there's good stuff there. Owens fires back and says, well, since you've come back, I know you're the architect, but you seem to be only making blueprints for complete failure for yourself. And that, yeah, he always has those words that just get right underneath your skin, does Owens. They brawl with each other. Stephanie just outright suspends Rollins, but Foley just says, nah, you're not doing that, woman. Fucking, no, I'm revoking it. Stephanie is pissed, but Foley says, I'm going to make Rollins and Owens at Clash of Champions. And tempers are at boiling point, but Rollins has got what he wants, and he's got his story. He's got his title match, so there is that. So the problem is with that here is that after that opening segment, Matt, and the mini segment that right at the beginning of the show before the title screen came up,
Yeah.
they do a backstage segment straight after this with Rollins and Owens and with Stephanie and Foley, and they're backing each other up and stuff like this. So after all that's said and done, which you really didn't need that last bit for, even though Foley sets up a couple of matches between Zayn and Owens and the main event of Jericho and Rollins, by this point we're like 22 minutes into the show and we've not seen any wrestling. So here's the thing, I liked the promos at this point anyway, so I didn't mind it as much. But that being said, they could have very easily done this. They could have split this up a bit more to go forward. And considering it's almost like they put all their storyline at the beginning of the show and waited for it to pay off at the very end. So the first 22 minutes of the show, I'm not even going into ads here, so it's probably like 30 minutes with ads added in. Then that's pretty much all the storyline, real implications of the main championship really they want to run with until right at the end of the event. So you've got 2.5 hours until, so like 2 hours then until this storyline picks back up. Yeah, you got a whole heap of nothing to fill that time. Well, you do have the other storylines, but we'll see how they get along. Charlotte versus Bayley. Bayley beat Charlotte after making Dana do something she actually really needs to do, which is sit by ringside and take notes on an actual notepad. Somehow she fucks that up, though, by hitting Charlotte accidentally, which costs her the match. So obviously she's not too happy with that. But Bayley wins the match. And I'm like, she wins the match here, which is cool. And I'm like, she gets a non-title win over the champion. But clearly this would put her into a Clash of Champions title shot by beating the champion. But by Sasha Banks' promo later on, it makes it seem like she's going to have a title shot. I don't really see where they're going, unless they're going for a triple threat, but still. They reveal, Matt, that Grand Metalik, Grand Metalik, I'll get that right, Jack Gallagher and Akira Tozawa, who has the sexiest German suplex in wrestling. That's right, better than Brock Lesnar's, I will say it right now, are announced to join the Cruiserweight division. And I have to say, Matt, with these three added in, I'd said before I was a little bit underwhelmed with the fact they put guys like Noam Dar in who hadn't impressed me, and still hasn't impressed me, might I add. And the fact that apparently Ibushi was signed, but then now he's not signed, and Zack Sabre Jr. isn't coming in. Every other guy that really I looked at and I'm like, yeah, they should really put them in this division, they've actually managed to go and get them for this division. So this Cruiserweight division now, you start looking at some of the names in it, I'm like, this is a healthy division right here, just right from the outset before even adding anyone else in there. Jack Gallagher is one of the guys I really like, Matt. Did you catch any of his matches in the CWC? I
have catch some of his matches, yeah.
Oh, he's fun. Let's just say he's fun.
He's a fun little pretzel maker.
Yeah. Funny enough, Akira Tozawa is the guy who he made into a pretzel and he wasn't able to move. I thought that was brilliant. I thought that was fantastic. And I'm really impressed with Akira Tozawa. I knew he had been wrestling. I've seen some of his matches outside of WWE, but I hadn't seen why he was such a hot commodity. You can tell why he is now. He's just very talented. So, yeah, very happy with that. Very happy with that indeed. Bo Dallas against a random dude. So either the reports of Bo Dallas getting into trouble at an airport weren't true, or he found the secret thing you can do that won't get you shit from WWE and actually gets you a push on television.
Yeah.
Who knew, Matt?
Actually, one thing we failed to mention, actually, as part of the news, because now you're saying, like, dicking around at an airport. Have you heard about Hall?
Oh, yes. It was a bit of a shame, isn't it? I don't want to bring up every time, though, that he mucks up.
He gets off the,
Yeah, it's
off the horse.
I think as wrestling fans, I think even Scott Hall X-Pac, Sean Waltman, came out and said, listen, just don't get on him every single time he falls off because it's going to happen, So.
Yeah.
But that, yeah, although there was loads of reports apparently of Dallas like getting into trouble on a flight and being told to leave and stuff like this, if he did honestly do that, then I don't think he would have been booked here. Like WWE are very strict on those things. They don't like negative publicity, and basically he basically got like a mini push here. It's kind of weird. So I'm not entirely sure if that's true, and it never got fully corroborated by anyone. It was just a story that came out there, and I didn't know the sources that put it out there, so I'm not entirely sure whether or not that was legit or not. But still. But he's back in solo action now. He's aggressive. When he's saying Bo leave, he's not like, Bo leave. He's like, you better fucking Bo leave right now. I'm going to beat the piss out of you. So there's something different on that front. He wins in about a minute. I'm like, cool. This is cool. They're giving Bo another shot. But, Matt, I'm not convinced it's going to go any further than the first run he got when he was doing this. But, yeah. Still, we'll see how it goes. He's one of those guys that, unfortunately... I mean this not with the complete niceties. He's not the best looking guy. He's not got the best build, and his gimmick isn't exactly that great. So it's one of those things, and he's not a particularly fantastic wrestler. So it's like, I can kind of understand why he's not in situations.
Why he's not Vince's favourite sort of thing.
Yeah. Why he's not a Seth Rollins, shall we say? Seth Rollins being a very athletic, good-looking guy, and just still.
He's not in the inner circle.
Huh? Sorry?
He's not in the inner circle.
No, he's not. Jericho has some serious man love for Kevin Owens. He's going to take Rollins out for his best friend. I will say, Matt, here that Jericho and Owens, they hug and they share a romance that rivals yours and mine. Rivals. Our love is much more pure, but it does rival ours. You know. We have something special going on here, man.
That's right.
Special. Tales will be told of our...
I quite like on Jericho's podcasts, it's Talk is Jericho with my best friend, Kevin Owens.
I love that. Because, they're besties now, and they're brothers, and they do everything for each other. The fact is that they love each other. It's just you know what? I said before, I love stories in wrestling. It really gets my heartstrings going, and I'm glad for these that they found someone that really makes them feel special.
They found each other. It's good.
It's good. So Jericho wrestles Rollins. You can tell face Rollins is going to be far more action, far less filler, as I said there before, which sounds good to me. This is a good match, as you would expect from these guys. Rollins hits a pedigree, walks out the winner. But Jericho got his hits in, and it looked like a close match. Looked okay. This was at the point, though, however, after this match where things started to nosedive pretty fucking hard. And we're getting into the latter half of the show here. Cesaro and Sheamus, 3 or 5, if you add the 2 prior singles matches they had prior to the actual best of 7 starting. I'm not going to talk about what happens here on this match because you know what happened here on this match. You've already watched it. Matt, you haven't even been watching Raw, but you've already watched it. So,
fair enough.
There you go.
Isn't Sheamus leading like 3-0 or something?
Yeah, he won this one. He's 3-0 up. Cesaro won in London, so now it's 3-1 as it currently stands. I expect they might go with a thing here where, because I thought they might make it so Cesaro comes back from a 3-1 deficit. But what I see happening here is Cesaro's going to win 3 matches on the trot and then lose. That's how I see it going.
You see Cesaro losing this?
Yeah, it'd be super corny if you won 4 on the bounce, wouldn't it? And Cesaro honestly loses all those matches in a row. That's why I thought that maybe having it so Cesaro, it makes it 2-1, then Sheamus makes it 3-1. And then winning 3 on the trot doesn't seem nearly as much as like 4.
I suppose.
But still. Because it just feels a bit hokey, him being like, he's got his back against the wall now and he wins every single match. So he's not the Golden State Warriors. He's not Steph Curry. He shouldn't be choking that badly. Sorry, Golden State Warriors. Don't fire shots at me just because your star man couldn't perform.
I can't help but feel that's a reference I shouldn't get.
You shouldn't get it, man. You're not into basketball. Okay? Sorry, Man United fans. You got Pogba and he didn't do shit today. Sorry. Captain, our engines are down. Shields down. Turbo Tony fired a torpedo at us. Yeah? Does that work? Yeah? Yeah? Does that... Yeah? Yeah, all I can imagine now is lots of Man United fans all in their kit on the bridge of the Star Trek Enterprise when it gets hit and they're all falling over and shit. Verbal assault coming in. Damn it! But still, anyway. Shining Stars versus Enzo and Cass. All I have to say with this is that the Shining Stars beat Enzo and Cass, and you already have to know everything that you have to know about this. Are you enraged yet?
A little bit.
It's like, the Shining Stars get a victory over Enzo and Cass. They didn't even cheat that much. Not really. I know they cheat just a little bit, but come on, it's a bit weird. And I tell you what did happen here is that Enzo equated listening to the Shining Stars as the same pain as giving birth, and then gives birth to an imaginary baby and then hands it to one of the people in the crowd. I will say that you listen to that, Matt, that has the makings of the worst segment of the year, but somehow Enzo makes it at least somewhat entertaining. So it kind of
good.
Yeah. It was a little bit too over the top, dare I say, but still. Although I have to say, Shining Stars did get a promo before the match, and guess what, Matt? They love Puerto Rico. Who guessed it?
It's the Shining Star of the Caribbean.
Yeah. I'm like, dare I say, you have to think of new material. Matt, that's just going a little bit too far. Suddenly the Shining Stars are on the bridge of the Enterprise. Shields down! He's wearing it. There you go. But yeah, I thought Shining Stars getting a win. I know it's supposed to make me angry, but I'm just like, are you really going to give these guys time? These guys that debuted and they were missing for about 3 months, came back, went missing for another month.
Yeah.
Like, really? These guys? Okay. So Nia Jax wrestled Alicia Fox's mate. It's funny that Alicia Fox's mate can get can get a match on Raw, but Alicia Fox herself cannot. I think that's quite funny, but still. Jax wins, as you had probably guessed, and I'm guessing her next match will be with Alicia Fox. It would be a bit weird if they just dropped this randomly.
Isn't there like some backstage segment with Alicia Fox just going mental or something?
Yeah, she just kind of lost her shit and started throwing shit around. Whether or not it was by design or not, but she actually threw like a box at Nia Jax's head, and Nia just fucking threw her against the wall like, you fucking twat. You know what I mean? Whether or not it was good acting, but I don't know if Fox was actually thinking, oh shit. Like, for a moment she hit her and almost like Fox realized, oh fuck, what did I do? And Nia just fucking
done fucked up.
Yeah. It's almost like, oh shit, I wasn't meant to do that. She just gets fucking hoisted onto the thing, but still. But Alicia Fox apparently is still crazy. I would be crazy if my friend who never made a fucking appearance on any WWE television gets a match on Raw, and I don't. So I kind of understand why she's a bit pissy with that. But
that's a valid cause for gripe.
Yeah. So still. Gallows and Anderson. I had spoken to you about this at some point in the week.
Doctor.
God. They're continuing their spiral into a failed comedy sideshow. That's all I can really say about this. They bring out the old guy. The old day, Just 3 old guys, essentially. One's got a Zimmer frame, one's got a scooter and a walking stick. And their entrance music is done, so it's like basically if you would put it onto like half speed, so it's all slow and like, you know, it is because they're old.
Oh, right. I didn't get that.
Unfortunately, they come to the ring at the same pace as their entrance music. So while I'm guessing there was some comedy meant to be done here, they took a fucking eternity getting into the ring to do it. So instantly the crowd are like sitting on their heels and like, okay, we get it. You're doing the old day shtick. We can kind of see where this is going before you even done it. This is horrific comedy to the worst degree. The crowd could not give a single iota of a fuck. They really could not. And it pains me to say, Matt, this is a contender for worst segment of the year. It's that bad. And they've got to go up against fucking Titus O'Neil and Kalisto, which is going to be pretty fucking. I don't think they'll win, but they're in the talking point here. Gallows and Anderson, right? They come out, and I'm like, what in the world were management thinking when they wrote this garbage? They basically just come out and just go, oh, yes, and I'm like, oh, shut up. Fucking shut up. It's so stupid. It's so... And you know what, Matt? It's one of those things that I'm like, Vince is probably laughing his fucking arse off to the point he can't hold his fucking snot in because he keeps belly laughing and it's all coming out of his nose and he's like, oh, slapping his leg. Oh, God, that's funny. And the rest of us are like, what the fuck were you thinking? Like, what the hell is this? Still, the New Day come out. They are cheered for the sole reason being of bringing this hot garbage to a halt. But then they decide that they're going to do their segment and their fighting of which at the same pace as the Old Day. So they attack the Old Day, try and attack their younger forms after they gyrate in the ring. They get thrown out of the ring. This went on way too long. They got nothing from the crowd. They achieved very little in getting people excited for the future tag team match. All across, horrendous. There you go. Matt, do you have any idea? Do you want to watch this segment? No? Okay, all right. Gallows and Anderson were meant to be the legitimate tag team that would go and change the dynamic of how things are. And you think them going against the New Day, it's like the perfect thing. You don't try and out-goof the New Day. You try and beat them into submission. That's what Gallows and Anderson should be doing. But they're coming out and they're doing failed comedy week in, week out, and it's not working. It's not getting anywhere.
You want to punch them into serious.
Yeah. And the thing about now, Matt, is if they decide magically, we want to become a serious tag team now, sorry, this is ingrained into my head. This tag team is ruined. I'm going to say it right now. Gallows and Anderson are ruined. Congratulations, WWE. You ruined them. It's not even a year. Matt, I don't even know if you're sure. It's 6 months into their tenure. They are ruined. They will never be the tag team that they could have been. Even if they win the titles, they won't be the tag team that I want them to be. Oh, well.
I think it's now to a point they can't be the tag team we want them to be.
No, they can't. That door has been closed. The minute they started acting like doctors and putting fucking eggs in a jar and calling them testicles, that ship sailed. That's gone. It's not feasible anymore. I just look at them and I think, what could have been? Oh, that's annoying. Moving on. Matt, as you can tell, the show really started to nosedive from here on out because what they follow this up with Darren Young versus Jobber Mahal. Oh, yeah. Titus O'Heel, I don't know what happened to this guy. Since his suspension, he seems to have forgotten how to speak. Matt, I remember one week you and me praising this guy for doing a stellar job on commentary. He was awesome. We were going like, wow, this guy could probably be a commentator. But wow, he was really good. He was being really entertaining. Now he's on commentary in this match. It's like he's forgotten how to speak. I don't know what happened to him. Maybe the beratement he got from Vince for grabbing his arm sucked the talent out of his mouth, and now there's nothing left. So, man, I'm starting to actually get really angry about this show, jeez. So Titus tries to distract Young, but he wins anyway because he's wrestling Jobber Mahal, so of course he wasn't going to lose. Young attacks Titus after the match in a weird brawl where Titus just kind of falls on his ass about 4 times. And then, Matt, they then, because they're brawling so much, they had to put in the whole referee force to go break them up. That being 3 referees.
You're not selling this to me.
No. 3 referees pull them apart. And I'm like, there's a big difference here when you've got 3 referees that are apparently enough to pull apart Darren and Titus Young, yet the entire building couldn't stop Undertaker and Brock Lesnar fighting each other. Kind of tells you the difference about the 2 different storylines going on here. Strowman versus Sin Cara. I actually do say that it was quite fitting. I laughed that the replay of Strowman killing the masked guy from last week was sponsored by Popeye's Bonafide $5 Big Box. Considering all the jokes I made about him eating his opponents, I'm like, All right. They must be listening to us, Matt. They must be listening to the show. If you can get sponsors about it, why not? You know? Sin Cara decides he wants to become food, so his new gimmick is beef in black bean sauce. Matt, do you like beef in black bean sauce?
I'm quite the fan.
I love me some beef in black bean sauce, so I can't say anything bad against Strowman when he consumes Sin Cara and just wipes his mouth with Sin Cara's mask that's left over. He didn't get all of it, of course, because he's got a big beard, but he's going to save some of Sin Cara in his beard for later consumption. So, yeah. By the way, guys, I know I've made a lot of jokes about me adopting Braun Strowman and me being his father. I have to say that it's completely true, and I'm very proud of my son.
I imagine like a true proud parent as you sort of look out.
Yeah, the best thing about this whole adoption thing is that he feeds himself.
That's quite true.
I don't have to do it. So the only thing is, though, I don't like the riffraff he gets involved in because sometimes he goes and plays with like Bray and like Eric. I don't like them very much. They're a bad influence on him, and maybe I have to give them some spankings every now and then. But yeah, I'd have to go speak to their guardian, which is Sister Abigail, and tell them that it's just not on. It's just not on. It's not going to work. Not with my boy. Not with Braun. Yeah.
You better leave him be.
Yeah. I'll make him call you Uncle Matt as well, Matt, like I do with my other kids.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know where this running joke came from, but I decided to fuck it. It's just,
Go with it.
It's not a joke to me. Anyway, Sasha Banks comes out. I spoke about this earlier on. She teases her retirement, goes on to talk about the revolution of women's wrestling, the no more bra and panties matches, and the butterfly title. She updates her condition, being that she's ready to wrestle again at Clash of Champions after she beats up Dana Brooke, who comes out to try and take her out. I know we have the benefit of hindsight, and I know I said this before, but geez, if Sasha losing the title now seems completely unwarranted. Like out of SummerSlam, her losing the belt seems like it should never have even happened. I don't know why. But it did, and this is the situation we're left in, and it's not ideal, but still. So we leave into the main event, Sami Zayn against Kevin Owens. These guys could be blindfolded at this rate and still know how to perform a high-quality match. Like, they don't have to see each other for this to happen anymore. And it is a good match. Owens picks up the victory after Sami seemed to pick up a knock, so pop-up powerbomb finishes it up. Roman Reigns comes out at the death of this show, and Matt, we're used to negative responses for Roman Reigns. We've been getting, we've had to get used to it for the better part of a year and a half now, right? So this crowd, for whatever reason, they weren't particularly lively. Well, when Roman Reigns came out, they were like, well, we were saving up all the boos for you, my friend, because they booed the shit out of him. They were not happy with him at all. And they weren't happy when you've got Mick Foley coming out and saying, well, if Roman Reigns, he'll have a match with Owens next week, and if he wins, he's in the title match as well. The crowd shat on him for him. They were like, fuck that, Mick Foley. We don't like you either, so fuck you. They were very much against him and very much against Reigns. So Reigns walks away after spearing Jericho, and he's quite happy for it. As he spears Jericho, Matt, I'm guessing you can guess what the fan response was when he did that.
Yeah. Holy no.
Yeah, it's, they weren't too happy. And the show ends. It's one of those matches, Matt, I think you can kind of tell that for the first hour, things were looking pretty bright, and I was pretty happy with what I was seeing. And then suddenly it all started to go down, like in flames almost. You can see the impact, you know?
I can just imagine, like, your review. It's like that old sort of Family Guy one where Stewie's tuning the guitar. It's like, oh, it's a lovely day outside. Oh, it's starting to get a bit cloudy. Maybe some rain. Yeah. And it's just as it gets even worse throughout the day.
Yeah, I mean, the main event was fine, but I mean, that's at the arse end of 2 hours. I'm like, that last hour anyway, just fucking, that kills the show at some weeks. When the cruiserweights come in, we can hope that they'll be able to fill those gaps, but that's asking a lot.
The week after?
I think it's 3 weeks' time or 2 weeks' time. It's pretty close anyway. It's going to be probably like the week of or the week before. the Clash of Champions event. So
Okay, fair enough.
it could be quite interesting there. But
I'd say it for after.
Oh, maybe it is. I don't know. But anyway, regardless of when it is, WWE needs that Cruiserweight division on this show. And maybe our fans are going to stick it to me now because I always said, I don't want them to do a Cruiserweight division. See, they're doing a Cruiserweight division now that I agree with. And the reason being is because they're not shoehorning current guys into that roster. They're just hiring tons of new guys to go in there. And I'm like, that's okay. That's all right. And they're guys I would like to see, and they will help the show. So yeah, a mixed bag. And really, it makes me wonder what grade I would give this. Because if I'm honest, you don't have to go and kill yourself to watch this show. You really don't. It's not that important. I am torn. Oh, I'm going to give this a very low watch it once. A very low, as in it's very close to being a skip it. So I'm going to go for a low watch it once. It's one of those episodes that, unfortunately, it starts off well, but as soon as Cesaro and Sheamus starts up again, suddenly things just start losing its pace. And the segments that I'm guessing that they thought were going to be big talking points, like the Gallows and Anderson one and the Sasha Banks one, didn't end up really going off too well. I've even heard apparently rumors that backstage wasn't happy with Sasha Banks' promo, the fact that it teased her retirement. So when they actually do their retirement speeches, it won't have as much impact. And I get what they're saying, but yeah, that's my review for Raw anyway. Listen, guys, if you've only got if you really feel like, okay, I want to watch some wrestling this week and I got 3 hours free, which I don't know why you would have 3 hours free, then sure, okay. But this is also in the same week where, even though I haven't watched it, I've heard it's good. Lucha Underground started again this week. NXT was good this week. You've got Cruiserweight Classic. So you can fill this 3 hours up with 3 better shows than Raw. And you do have another option, which is SmackDown.
Which started off in your most least favourite way.
Oh, no. Kathy Lee Gifford and Hoda again.
Brian's in the ring and everyone's like, yay! And then all of a sudden, like, all the divas for this 6-pack challenge are like, I want to come out and say something. No, I want to come out and say something. And I just want Natalya to stay the fuck away from any microphone possible.
She's that bad, is she?
Oh, it's just...
She's never really that good, let's be honest.
No, and she's now trying to drive it so hard. And I'm like, I just don't believe you.
But it's one of those ones that I'm guessing what you're getting at is one of those ones where, as you say, one woman comes out, I'm going to win the title. Then entrance music hits.
No, listen here. No, I'm going to. And then it's just.
A good 50% of the promo is just entrance music.
Most of it, no. Nobody really got an entrance music. It was just a case of. Oh, no, saying that. Do you know what? I can't even remember. I think Becky got her music.
It's not hard.
I quite liked how like Brian did it. He introduced Becky first, and then he's like, "I'm guessing you all are wondering, like I'd probably bring out my sister-in-law first, but you know, Becky was our first pick for SmackDown, so it was only right." Now that you mention Nikki, quick plug.
Yeah.
Oh God.
No, he didn't plug Total Bellas, did he?
He plugged Total Bellas.
Oh no, Brian, no.
That's like next week or something.
That's going to be. Oh God, I'm not even. Oh yes. I can't even get words for how much I don't want that show. But go on.
Yeah. But it leads off. It got like then they all. I think that's actually like before the opening credits. I don't honestly remember. It happened at the start. There's like a backstage segment with Brian, Shane, and like Miz and Maurice, and it's just sort of like, no, you're gonna like. Daniel Bryan was basically like, well, you were a bit of a dick, so I have the power. Let's put it this way: you could defend the IC title against Ziggler at Backlash, or you could just give me the title. Just like you can just relinquish it. Because if you're not going to defend it, you don't deserve it. I Opening match is a non-title rematch from SummerSlam, and it's Cruz versus Miz.
And I'm guessing Cruz loses again.
Ziggler's at ringside, and Cruz loses.
Oh my God, this is going to be a gravestone for Cruz's momentum.
Like, Ziggler gets all kind of involved, but it's all outside of the ring. But he just gets shoved. And it's just skull crush finale, and it's just, there we go. I mean, I quite like, it's like, when I was like, oh yeah, there were some good bits. Like, it was even to the like reversal into this really nice Samoan drop that it was really quite interesting. And I was like, and he also did this like moonsault off the apron, and guess what? He did another moonsault off the apron. It's like, it's just like, oh, we've seen it all before.
It's one of those things with Cruz. It's not his moves. We've said this before, but his moves aren't the problem. It's as you say there, Matt. It's like he thinks that's okay, but when you do the same move twice in a match, especially if it's a spot like that, then fans aren't going to just react to it as well, are they?
Yeah,
really? So
and it's just
psychology.
That's it. But it's an all right match. But yeah, it was pretty expected. Actually, it's quite interesting because going off this whole Miz is just nothing more than a coward. It ends up with that Ziggler stood in the ring, and he's got the IC belt, and he's like, "Well, if you want it, you can come and get it." And Miz is like, unless you're just being a chicken, like you're going to be a child about it and just like run away. And Miz does the best thing. He sends Maurice in for the belt.
Like the good heel he is. That's right.
it. Although part of me was like, please, Ziggler, just kick her in the mouth.
Wow.
I was like, Ziggler, just please super kick her for me. But she won't be expecting it.
She's a good-looking woman, Matt. Like,
fuck off. Man, I'm still not sold. I didn't like her then. I don't like her now.
Okay.
But yeah, and it all cuts off. We get a Wyatt promo, which is pretty cryptic and it's pretty good. Just going on about like how he insists that Orton's lost his edge and things like that. It is quite a good one. Later on, actually, Orton has quite a similar sort of promo, but it's really annoying because Orton's promo, like this is later on in the show, but I'll just cover it now.
Yeah.
Like Orton's retort is he's telling a story about like a hunter who killed a rabbit and he sees a snake. And the hunter's like, oh, that's okay, because the snake is more afraid of me than I am of it, and I can take this rabbit. And he gets the rabbit and he starts walking away. And then the snake strikes. Because the snake knows that if he bides his time, he can get the rabbit and the human. Because he's too egotistical and his arrogance will be his downfall. That's all quite good. He's sort of telling this weird little story and things like that. But it's because he's out. It was backstage in a corridor, the most emptiest corridor they could find, which had the greatest echo. So every time Orton said anything with an S, like, or even just made that noise, you could just hear it just go, like down the hall. It's like, oh, God. It's just like, I can't take it seriously. Oh, well. It was a pretty good little story. What do we have next? So, because they all decided to just swarm the ring and have a little chat, 6 Diva tag match.
Oh, no.
I'm still sick of Natalia. I'm even sick of Natalia as a worker now. Like, just like the way she's just like, yeah! When she's just like on the apron or anything like that, like she's done something, she goes, yeah! And I'm like, just please stop.
Like Natalia as well, she's always capable. Like, she's a good wrestler, but every now and then she shits the bed a little bit in the ring. She's always capable of that. Like, you know, like she had a couple of matches where, like, do you remember the one where she thought she had won, like, through the sharpshooter or something, and she, like, demanded, like, she was like, oh, yeah, the referee's raising my hand, but the referee's like, she didn't tap, you fucking moron. She's like those couple of times. So
come on, you know the rules.
Yeah.
I quite like how this time round, like earlier on, they were like, "Oh, we insist on having Becky out first because she was our first choice." No, Nikki comes out first this time. Becky comes out during the commercial.
Oh, okay.
Well, I guess she got her entrance in earlier with the gas and everything like that. It's meh.
It's a women's 6 tag match, yeah.
It is. It's kind of as you'd expect. It's quite good because you get a point that like Nikki's been beaten down a bit, and she tags in Carmella. Like Carmella gets tagged in where Nikki's down. Carmella goes for her, and it's like, oh, here we go, because it's going to be because of everything that's been going on. It's going to be Nikki and Carmella that's going to be the finish. Nikki hit Carmella with her new finish, whatever she's referring it to. But Bliss actually breaks the pin. And I'm like, oh. It carries on. After breaking the pin, like Bliss does her like jumping knee, standing moonsault, like backflip sort of thing.
Oh, yeah.
And then Carmella locks Nikki in the code of silence.
Okay.
And Nikki taps to Carmella.
Getting her victory back in a way, because she got pinned last week, didn't she?
No, the match didn't start last week.
Oh, because she just got hit.
Yeah. So if anything, it's just more of like Carmella just having one over on Nikki. So it's quite interesting. But they, unfortunately, like all the commentary are just sort of like, hey, like that's it. Like Carmella's like proving to be like a serious contender in all of this, and it's like, no,
she ain't winning that title. She's winning all these matches because she isn't winning the title.
No, that's it. There was one part in this, like Ronaldo just needs to like take a step back for a second. Nikki Bella has some of the strongest forearm strikes in the industry, in both male and female. No.
I think he's...
He also compares them, I think it was like, who was it to? Oh, famous Japanese wrestler. Masawa? I think it was like Masawa or something like that, or someone like that. But it was just sort of like, no. I can't remember who it was now.
It's not as if she's like an overly stiff wrestler, so you could go, oh yeah, well fair enough, she does lay her shit in. This is Nikki Bella. Like, she's a decent wrestler, but she's not a physical wrestler by any means.
Yeah. Not at all. Next one's quite interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Tag team match. The spirit of Teddy lives on.
Yes.
American Alpha versus the Usos.
In fact, this is one of the parts of SmackDown I've seen this week. So yeah.
So you've seen that this match lasted all of about a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Just a whole load of shake hands like, yeah, let's do this. And Usos attack. And they're like, oh. And Alpha just managed to just go, no, fuck this. Hits Grand Amplitude and get the win. It's like, oh. Okay. But this then triggers the true heel turn. And the Usos just kind of go savage on Gable's legs. So how much have you seen it? Have you seen like the way, I think it's like Jay or whatever, it's like had him in like a front face lock exposing the back of his leg, and like Jimmy just like comes off and just kicks out the back of his calf.
Yeah, like they try and definitely get over the fact that he ain't going to be able to compete, sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And then like one of them like splashes the other leg as well. So it's like, nope.
I think they announced like afterwards that he's going to be like in storyline anyway. He's going to be out for like 4 to 6 weeks or something.
Yeah, that's it. So it's actually going to be like the Hype Bros get another chance. But because later on they lose to Slayer and Rhino, so the Hype Bros have a second chance to face the Usos. But they come up with this like backstage promo, and it's quite good because it's just sort of like. These is like, we've been here for like 6 years and we like kissing ass and trying to like get people, and it's like, do you know what? I'm sick of this, and I don't like. I want all this damn respect, sort of thing. But this time, nah, fuck it. I'm like, oh. To be fair, I've kind of been curious. I've been kind of curious about an Uso turn, and now I'm going to find out.
See how well they can, because I mean the Usos have been faced throughout their entire run, so this is like, when Kofi Kingston went heel with the New Day for a little while. It's like, okay, let's see what you got. Like we've had you as something for so long. Let's see what you can do now. Let's see with a little bit of change. See how you can pull this off. So, I mean, it works because they still got a bit of the heel heat off of them from being with Roman, haven't they? Yeah. So they're still getting booed a little bit. So may as well capitalize on it.
But yeah, so I'm like really curious, and I'm kind of interested to how it's going to go. And yeah, like they've sort of dabbled a little bit, not through choice, by just being. But it's going to be quite interesting. So, Fandango is in the ring on his own because Tyler Breeze is apparently away in Dubai picking out fabrics for their new range of clothing or whatever.
Yes.
So he's just basically in the ring. He's just like, and I just want to dance. And some random lady called Betty with some tattoos. Betty. And it's just sort of like, oh, just like, see, like your hips don't lie or whatever. It's like dance, and he just basically just shuns her out, like saying her dancing shit. And he's just like, I need a dance partner, someone with like the fire in their belly and things like that. Well, if there's one person in the SmackDown locker room who understands fire, out comes Kane.
I thought you were going to be like, oh, it's Becky Lynch, and they have a lovely dance night. It's Kane. Oh, okay, he's getting raped.
Yeah. It's like, this is, I love it, is the fact that Fandango spends the entire time. He drops the accent, because I swear is that little moment where he's like pissed himself a little bit, just like, because he pretty much drops the Fandango accent, because he's just like, this is great, this is good, like the fire in your belly, let it out. And he's just sort of like, and he's like kicking out his legs. He's like, yeah, it's cool, we're gonna dance, and he just gets chokeslammed.
Yeah.
Kane, I will say he fandangoed a little bit. Kane just literally just went like 1, 2, 1, 2 sort of thing with his fingers. So like,
go on.
Just to sort of just take the piss. Sort of like meh.
You should try the spinneroonie and scared all of us. Yeah.
No, I don't think we're ready for a Kane spinneroonie.
A Kane-a-rooney.
The Kane-a-rooney. That even works. But yeah, that's it. I think Kane's just thing recently, because obviously he did it to the Milkman last week. He's just coming out just to fuck with people.
Yeah. Which in small doses with Kane nowadays, I guess that's kind of the best way to use him now, you know?
Yeah. So, apparently Slater's... So according to this bit, I'm just reading it off, like Slater's in the ring with all of his kids and all that lot. I didn't see this. So as far as I'm concerned, it didn't happen, because all I got was a lot of JBL just like, it was on Facebook Live or whatever. I was like, whatever.
I actually saw this.
I haven't seen this yet.
I saw it because it was on their Facebook page. So,
yeah. I didn't watch it. Basically,
it was just him and showing all of his family and being the
You've seen his wife?
Yeah. What's it? Beulah.
Yeah. And like the grumpy daughter just like over in the distance, just like arms crossed, like grump.
Yeah. To be fair, that I'd be kind of pissed off if my own that storyline father didn't know my name. So there is that, you know. Yeah. So there is that.
But it's average. It's a pretty good match. Like the one thing is, the Hype Bros are a little bit over.
It's better than nothing, I guess.
It's a bit of a cheer, like a bit of a pop when they came out. But if there are two people who are over, like obviously Slater is always over.
Yeah.
But Rhino, on the other hand, he's fucking over.
It's because he's the one saving Slater, man. He's the one.
That's it. And he's the one basically carrying them. Like Slater does get quite a lot in, and he starts off and he does for a lot of the match. And then like Rhino rocks in, and it's just he does like they refer to it as the Gore Buster. It's a spine buster, but it looks dirty.
Was
Like
this slating?
No, Rhino's.
Oh, Rhino.
Rhino has a dirty spine buster.
I do love a dirty spine. You know, one thing I miss about Adam Rose is that he had a dirty ass
That
spine buster.
beautiful spine buster, yeah. That's it. It's a lost art. But yeah, like Slater's in, and then he takes he's like Slater's about to take the broski boot. Like Rhino drags him away, tags himself in. Like Ryder's still sort of like hung up on the rope from the boot, and just the chant for the gore was just huge. It was great, and that was actually the main event.
Oh, really?
They were well in for the gore.
I mean, that's the main event leading into Backlash, so that's pretty badass.
But now begins what I'd like to call the build-up promo.
Okay.
So you know what I was saying about like Ambrose had a really good promo with Ziggler leading into SummerSlam?
Yeah.
Ambrose had a really good promo with AJ leading into obviously into Backlash. He's got a gift for Styles, and he gives him this little black bag. He's like, "Go on, open it up. I got it for you. I got it for you." Like, it's a bowling trophy. Well, it's kind of a participation trophy, but I mean, it's the only trophy that I'm going to give you. And it's just sort of, it's just this great back and forth, and like Ambrose is just like, yeah, you beat Cena, but you beat him in a wrestling match. Like, you are the better wrestler, but like, you're going to come face me, and it's not going to be a wrestling match.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's so good. And it's just like, it's the great to and fro. And it's like, oh, you think this is a joke? I was like, nah, I think this is a joke. And they like show the footage where he gets trapped on the top rope. And all things like that. It's like, oh, I was just trying to, what was it? I was trying to put your voice up a note to match your soccer mum haircut. And it's just like, oh, it's just great little quirks and things in to and fro. And like Styles cuts this like great promo about like, it doesn't really matter, like, you think you're ready, but you're not even ready for me, sort of thing. Like, I'll take you to depths and things like that. And it's just this brilliant to and fro moment until like Styles loses his cool and kicks Ambrose in the dick.
Undertaker's him, yeah.
Not even like, at least Undertaker was like from behind with the arm. No, he like flat out kicked him in the just like, you're right, mate. Bang. Don't fuck with me. And I see it like standing over him, just sort of like, just sort of like, you're gonna face me, like, this is gonna come to it, like, you've brought this upon yourself and all things like that. And it's like, that's good. But it's great. No, it was. I really enjoyed that promo. There were some solid matches. I would give it a higher rating than Raw.
Again?
Well, I think with Backlash, tomorrow was re-recording. Today is this is released.
Yeah.
It finishes off a couple of things. So, like, with the fact that it's going to be that Slater and Rhino are in the final of the tag tournament, is it going to be Usos versus the Hype Bros to who's going to face them? That's like squared away now to be at Backlash. Ambrose and Styles. I'd say I think they just did a like obligatory women's match because they kind of had to.
Yeah, get champion locked in, then they can start working on feuds. Yeah,
yeah, but it's I'd give SmackDown a better rating.
Is it still a watch it once, but it's a much higher?
It's still a watch it once, but it's like, I think it's kind of like you have to watch it once.
Yeah, I get what you mean.
Just to sort of like where it's all wrapped up now, leading into Backlash.
Cool. Okay. We don't have a lot of time to do predictions, but there isn't that many matches. We already got into some of these rivalries here. So we'll go through the predictions for Backlash tonight. I've got the list up in front of me here now. I'll give my predictions as well, even though you've got to take mine with a pinch of salt because it's not my brand. But this is the first time we're going to be looking at these brand-specific pay-per-views. So Miz versus Dolph Ziggler, Matt. Who do you think's walking out with the title, the IC Championship?
Ziggler.
Think Ziggler's walking out with the title? I think Miz is going to retain. That's my personal.
I think, in all honesty, yeah, Miz will retain. I just want Ziggler to win it.
This one's from the heart for you.
Right. Okay. So we're going to go with actual how WWE are going to book it. Miz.
Okay, you think Miz? Okay. Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt. I think that Orton will probably win this.
I think Orton as well. But I think Rowan's going to get involved after Wyatt pretty much abandoned him a couple of weeks ago. Just sort of like, you piece of shit, and just walked off.
It might be a DQ victory. I don't see this being like a finish that's going to be completely clean, or even if it is, I don't think it's going to be a victory and someone walks out all happy. It's going to be a victory and someone gets the piss beaten out of it.
Yeah,
this is just the starting of a rivalry, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
The Usos versus the Hype Bros to see who will get to the finals of the tag team tournament.
Usos.
Yeah, Usos definitely. Then the Usos then wrestling Heath Slater and Rhino for the tag team championship.
Dangerous.
This is a tough one.
I can see the credits of both.
Yeah.
Because everyone's going to want to make sure that Slater keeps a job, because like Slater's over.
Yeah.
But if you want one way to get the Usos over as true heels, they'll dick over Slater.
Yeah. That's the one thing that's making me think about this, that if you really want to get the Usos as the top heel team, well, better way than to piss on Slater and Rhino's fireworks here. And, I mean, could you imagine the heel heat for them? They'll get fucking tons of it there. I'm going with Usos to win the whole thing.
I'm going to go no contest.
No contest? Wow, okay.
That Jordan will get involved.
Okay. So, like, he'll just cause it so the match can't... The thing is, I think they have to crown a champion here on this show, though.
Yeah, well, maybe to the extent that, like, Slater and Rhino get the belts.
Yeah.
But I think Usos will get screwed.
Okay, so you're going to go with Slater and Rhino.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll go with Usos to take the championship.
Okay.
Bliss, Lynch, Carmella, Naomi, Natalya, Nikki Bella, Women's Championship.
I've got a choice of two.
Yeah, who do you think?
Nikki or Becky?
Yeah, I think it's Nikki or Becky. I'm going to go with Becky.
I'll go with Nikki.
Okay. The only reason I go with Becky is because Nikki and Carmella can still rival with each other over being, what they're doing, and they don't need the title to do that. But that's my only reason for that. Ambrose versus Styles for the WWE Championship.
It's going to be hard. Styles.
You go Styles to win.
Styles. Yeah.
I'm going Styles to win the championship. I think that Ambrose as a champion, unfortunately, has been a bit of a bust. Time to give a chance to a guy who, unfortunately for Ambrose, it just rises to those occasions a little bit better than he can. So that's why I'm going with Styles. I think he's earned it, personally. But there we are. All right, so that's our predictions for Backlash. I will be watching Backlash. I don't know if we're going to review it on the show, like on an extra one, because it's a brand-specific pay-per-view. It depends on really how we're feeling about things. Yeah. But we'll see how it goes. But apart from that, guys, that is the show. I'm sorry.
One thing.
Go on.
With the tag team thing.
Mm-hmm.
What if the Revival debut?
But what would they do? Just clear out everyone in the ring?
Fuck off everyone.
Maybe. That would get people interested, I guess. But I just think that they've got it back in their head that they have to crown a champion here on the show.
I want the Revival. I want the Revival on SmackDown.
Yeah. Well, I want the Revival on Raw, but that's because I'm selfish.
I want the Revival on SmackDown because our tag team division's actually half decent as opposed to...
The Revival can take the place of Anderson and Gallows because they're nothing to me now, so...
Nope. I think it's going to. I think it's going to end up being back in the days where it's like SmackDown's the tag team
brand.
Yeah.
It may end up being that way because, to be honest, the tag team division on Raw isn't looking very good, but still. All right, then, guys. If you did enjoy the show, then please leave us a like and subscribe to the channel if you're new to things as well. If you want to interact with us, the main way of doing so is our Facebook page, facebook.com/Let's Talk Wrestling Podcast. You can also send a tweet to our Twitter handle.
Talk Wrestle Pod.
It is indeed. And, of course, you can send us any emails or private messages, audio questions, to Let's Talk Wrestling Podcast @gmail.com. Plenty of ways to get in contact with us. Apart from that, wow, you guys have had a long podcast today. I tell you what, Matt, I've rather enjoyed this week. It's been a fun week to talk about pro wrestling. We've got a lot of stuff coming up, as we said there before. A lot of stuff to be interested in, a lot of stuff to be excited about as things go on in the future. And Backlash comes out. We'll have definitely our thoughts on that, especially at very least on our Facebook page. So you definitely want to go and like our Facebook page. Apart from that, we hope you have a great week. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Leave any questions in the comment section below. Apart from that, have a great week. We'll catch you all next time.
We'll catch you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.